Good evening, everyone. We are the canvassing board for the city of Birchwood Village, and we're here tonight to certify the election results from the November 5th, 2024 election. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. Becky, could you do the roll call?
Certainly. Do we have Board Chair Margaret Ford?
Present.
Wonderful. Board Member Ryan Hankins.
I'm here.
Board Member Justin McCarthy.
Here.
And Board Member Kathy Weir. Here. All here.
Right, great. Our next item is unfinished business, which I don't believe there is any, so we'll go right to the new business, which is certifying the results of the election. And it looks like, for mayor, from our exhibit from the Washington County, Jennifer Arsenal got 354 votes. For council member, Ryan Isley got 372 votes, and Bridget Spurl got 352 votes. And so those were the people who have were elected to those spots. And so I would like, I'm going to do it in two parts. I'm going to first do a motion to accept those results, and then we have a resolution. So we'll do belt and suspenders and get it done that way tonight. So I'd like a motion to accept the Washington County results.
Justin will move to accept the results.
All right, may I have a second?
Kathy will second.
Kathy, second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, on the resolution, and I just pulled this from last year. It
Okay.
says that the foregoing resolution was presented by Board Chair Margaret Ford and seconded by Board Member Blank. So does that mean you have to make the?
This is just the
Initial.
motion to
Yeah,
accept. We're going to
I'll do the resolution second.
Okay, all right. I just
And then we
wanted
will-
to make sure.
And then we'll make sure you put Kathy in there. Okay.
So the first, so Kathy would go in here?
No.
No, this is we're doing two
We're doing-
things.
we're doing
a
two-
motion
yeah.
and the resolution.
Yep.
So we're
Kathy's for
not
this-
doing the resolution, we're just
Don't worry
doing
about,
the.
no,
Yeah.
not yet.
Got
Yeah,
it.
okay, yep.
Thank you.
All right, Kathy, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, those results are certified. Congratulations, everyone. All right, and now we will vote on the resolution 2024-44. It is a resolution certifying the results of the municipal election held on November 5th, 2024. This is to accept the election results as certified, declare Jennifer Arsenal elected mayor for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2026, Ryan Isley and Bridget Spurl elected council members for the 4-year term ending December 31st, 2028. May I have a motion to pass this resolution?
Why don't you move so that,
All right, Margaret Ford moves to approve the resolution. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Justin.
Justin. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution passes. All right.
Should we,
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ryan, may I have a second?
I'll second, Kathy.
Kathy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November 2024 City Council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll move, Justin.
May I have a second?
I'll second Kathy.
Kathy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. I would like to now open the public forum. Is there anyone who would like to address the council? Barton?
Barton Winter, 1 Oaks Lane. And I have a couple of issues, a few, starting with the hockey rink and the skating rink. So we're getting into that time of the season. And a couple things that I'm interested in is, one is, not for now, but the figure skating, pleasure skating rink is not level, and I pointed this out to the mayor, and I have asked that we consider, when we have the opportunity, to level this out so that it's much easier to flood. So it's high on the side closest to Lake Avenue, and so that side usually stays in grass for quite a long time. Another issue is a tree that we have, which you can see close to that backpack, but there's a clump of birch trees right there in the center of the photo. And I consider those trees to be really in the way. And I would like to see them removed, because when we get a lot of snow, that area is right in conflict with the place where we want to put the snow. And also that tree is, the limbs are constantly overhanging the walkway with the rubber matting. And also, we put picnic tables there during skating season, and it's also in the way then. So it's kind of like right getting into your face, et cetera. Now, maybe it's, some of the branches have been trimmed, but it's still a problem. So that's my feeling. It wasn't put there in consideration of how well we can use the rink. I'm also interested in putting a white surface on the rink. Now, there's the possibility that we could buy a very large tarp, similar to what they use on backyard rinks, and put that down, and it's like completely enclosed bathtub kind of situation, where in the past we tried putting sheets down, but the sheets were not forming a watertight area. So that's fairly pricey. It's about $2,500, but it would serve, and they consider it only to last for about a season, but maybe we could use it for more than that. But once you flood over that, you freeze on it, and then you trim the upper part against the board. So we're thinking about white, and white is very helpful. I guess another consideration is, I just want to point out that I did mention to the mayor and to Ryan about parking on Cedar by our new neighbor at 160 Cedar. And I don't know how much longer, he said his driveway is going to be ready soon, but anyway, I'm not sure why he was allowed to do that. And, to me, it seemed like a great imposition and not real legitimate. I'm not sure why he said his driveway wouldn't cure within a fairly short period of time, and he's suggesting it was more than a week. So anyway, I hope we can resolve that. It doesn't seem like it's going to last too much longer, but I would certainly object to that as a routine kind of thing from them. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? All right, seeing no other people who would like to address, I'd like a motion to close the public forum.
So moved, Kathy.
I'll second.
Ryan second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The public forum is closed. All right, announcements. Becky, could you let us know what the announcements are?
Certainly, we have a truth in taxation hearing coming up on December 10th at 6:45 at City Hall. Upcoming deer hunt dates are November 21st and 22nd, and December 13th and 14th if needed. We did some rescheduling of the Planning Commission meetings for November and December. The November one will be held on the 20th, and December 19th is the date for that. And then finally, yoga began at City Hall on Tuesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., and they are accepting donations for the use of Village Hall.
All right, thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
All right. Our next item of business is the consent agenda. Are there any items that council members would like to have pulled for further discussion?
I'd like to pull out C, the calendar.
Okay. All right. With the exception of C, sure, you can. With the exception of C, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda A and B?
Justin will move.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ryan seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? A motion carries. Consent agenda is approved with the exception of C. Ryan, did you have a comment?
I guess the comment I have on the calendar is that normal to do that in November? It just seems like there's only, I guess, 2 of us here that would vote on this. I wonder if this would be better to leave for maybe January.
I mean,
I mean, it's
I
nice
have
to have it
no,
done, but like
I have no objections to that if it's.
if you want to keep coming to meetings, you're welcome, but like, you know.
My only concern is does it need to be in place for them to have an official notice of the meeting?
Can we amend it? Could we just
They
amend
can
it
amend
if we
it
change our
later.
mind? Okay, let's just do that. Then I'll move to adopt the council meeting schedule and official holidays 2025 on page 43.
All right. May I have a second?
I'll second Kathy.
Kathy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The council meeting schedule and holidays for 2025 are approved. All right, our next item is city business. Our first item is A, accept council member resignation for Mark Foster, and appoint an interim council member. All right. Our first item is approving Resolution 2024-43, Mark Foster resignation.
I'll move to approve resolution 2024-43, accepting Mark's resignation.
Thank you. Justin, may I have a second?
I'll second Kathy.
All right, Kathy. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So now, if we had said no to that, does he have to, like,
He has to move back for 2 months.
how does that work?
Then
I
he
think
has
I've got
to
his
go back,
phone
yeah.
number here.
Well, and I would like to put on the record, thank you to Mark Foster
Yes,
for
thank
his service to the city of Birchwood, and maybe before the end of the year, we can come up with a formal resolution. All right.
Enjoy the new house, too. So,
Yeah.
nice new
All right,
house.
our next item of business is to appoint and swear in new council member Ryan Isley.
When do we swear?
Well, yeah, we're doing it right now. Are you ready to take the oath of office, Ryan?
Yes?
Do we want to appoint
All
him
right, you
first?
have-
We should
I think we have to
probably
appoint
appoint
him.
him.
Oh, we have to appoint first? Okay. I got out of order with my excitement here.
I'll move to
Yeah.
approve resolution 2024-45, appointing Ryan to fill Mark's vacancy.
All right, and I second it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Ryan, you are now appointed, and now we're going to swear.
Okay.
Okay, all right, you have the oath right there in front of you. All right. You, go ahead.
I, Ryan Isley, do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and to discharge faithfully the duties of the office of council member of the city of Birchwood Village, Minnesota, to the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Ryan, can you sign that?
Yeah, you need to
Pass
sign.
it on over to
And, yeah, welcome to the team. Our next item is engineering updates. Marcus.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Let's see, what is first on the agenda?
Lift station.
Yeah, lift station, bids are, we're currently taking questions. Contractors are looking at the specs and plans. That'll close. I believe it's on the 2nd or 3rd of December,
4th, it looks like,
4th?
in the memo.
4th of
12/4.
December? Yep. And then the plan is to bring those to the December council meeting to discuss and then hopefully award the little contractor.
Oh, what's the deadline on the RFP?
For the grant,
For the lift station?
for the,
Contractors, Ryan, is that what?
yeah, it's on that date in December.
Okay, and you just said it?
Yep,
12/4.
12/4.
Okay,
So
so
we don't know until, I think it's at like 9 normally, who's throwing bids in or anything. We can't see any of that until it's closed, and then all that information that's held in Quest is released to us. We'll have a quick, it's like a 5-minute ordeal where we go through all the bidders, make sure that we're not missing any, certify the list, and then that's the end of the meeting. So, and then we'll draft a summary for the city to be in the agenda that day,
And
and then,
okay, you make us a recommendation?
Yep.
Basically?
Yep.
Okay.
we'll have to cross-check it, but we're pretty much required to go with the low for the most part, unless if there's something that we see in the bids.
Cross-check means you validate it to see that it met the requirements?
Correct, yep, yep.
Marcus, can you speak a little bit to this issue with the KSB pumps? How difficult is that? to
I think
overcome?
we're working through it. I think
Okay.
we got a couple of suppliers that found their way to go through that process. Essentially, the shorter is with this funding, everything has to be locally supplied. Not that it's a bad thing, but it as far as internal parts, there are very select pumps and other stuff that are supplied, made, and sourced all in the United States. So it just kind of limits us.
What
But
is a KSB pump?
it's a brand.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yep.
yeah.
What is meant by locally supplied? Is that the local area or is it
Everything in the U.S., everything in the
in the
States.
U.S.?
Yep. Yep.
How does the funding work on this one? Is it once it's done, the EPA pays their portion, or do we get those funds in advance?
I believe it's once it's done, the EPA pays their portion. Rice Creek, I believe, once we get the bid results, I believe they just send us that money.
Portion?
Yep.
Okay. Assume we have
Because-
to put a portion down for these?
I think the city has to front everything essentially, and then it's for Rice Creek or for
The whole project in general?
for the federal part of it. That's the city has to front it, and then you're essentially reimbursed for it, from what I'm remembering. And then they do a check of making sure that, like, we'll have to list everything that comes in for the project. We'll have to have a supply sheet, and then like go back, and that'll all have to be submitted to them. The pay apps will all have to be submitted, all that stuff. They review that, and then they'll release a check.
Okay.
are there any other questions for Marcus on the lift station?
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Our next item is Oak Ridge Drive drainage issues.
Okay, so at the last council meeting, we discussed getting a boring or two borings right at that low point to discuss a infiltration system. And I talked with our water resources engineer, and it is an option, but Bolton Mink doesn't recommend that we go that route because they are known to fail pretty rapidly for that small of a system.
It's rapidly.
It can be anywhere from a couple of years to 10 years, which for an infiltration system is pretty low.
And what happens when it fails? Can it be repaired?
Yeah, it can be. Usually it just continues to hold water. So it'd be like a ditch essentially.
So for that type of a thing, like, what's the cost of one of those things? You know?
You're probably looking, well, it depends on how extensive you want to go, I guess, and as far as the landscaping goes. But I think it would be really tight to do it while tying into the right of way.
I guess my point is, right, is that your recommendation is 130,000. Okay, and I'm trying to weigh costs and benefits here because
Yep.
putting in that drainage that we were talking about is 80,000, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you're telling me that this solution you're saying is much superior, right? It makes sense for us to say, okay, well, maybe we'll spend a little extra money for a solution that lasts. But if the difference is 10,000 versus 130,000, I mean, that's a different calculus.
Yeah, I guess how I see it is kicking the can down the road. It's a temporary solution until we figure out how we want to manage storm sewer for the streets aspect of it. The 130,000 is worst case scenario. I think that we can kind of match similar to. Chris, can you pull up my screen?
I mean,
My recommendation is to adjust the CIP,
What's
And-
the CIP?
the capital improvement plan, that roads plan that we. Yeah,
You have the boring quote here, though.
yeah, the boring quotes
Boring
there.
quote is here.
So that's
50.
that's solely just to see if we're even feasible to,
Do a
if we can
rain garden.
infiltrate. Yeah,
Right.
So there's your number.
So rain gardens
that's-
can be
that's
done through
just the
Washington
test.
County.
that's just a test. That's not including the design or anything like that.
And so what is this 130 for? Because you say it down below, you don't think that we would need to extend the storm sewer, but yet there's a quote for 130, and what is that?
So.
I guess I'm troubled by this whole thing. Like, why is this even an issue?
Well, let Marcus explain what is included in this,
Yeah.
in this fix for 130.
Sorry, I'm
I mean, it
just-
looks like
So-
it's engineering cost contingency, but the $100,000, how would that improve the situation or fix it?
Yeah, so the issue has always been here, regardless on the severity. The severity is worse because we have smooth roads now, so nothing is holding up the water. It's all just going to the same spot. So what we had originally planned is milling overlaying this section right here. So I'm proposing the proposal is to reclaim the whole thing. We shot some stuff last week to see, what exactly it looks like, and essentially there's just a low point right at the driveway on both sides. So I think that we're gonna have to go back in that driveway a little bit to raise it up because, I mean, it's always been a low point. Then we'll be able to lift the road up a little bit to get
So
that.
is his house right at the juncture of the old and the new? Because we reclaimed part of that, right?
It was down a little ways from what I recall, but
From where
we ended.
from where you ended.
Yep.
So your solution is basically take some more of redo what we just did to raise it up?
That would be the best solution if we'd like to just do another layer of asphalt on top.
And then also raise up Mr. Jacola's driveway? Is that what you're
I'm really
proposing?
confused by what,
Correct. Yep. So
I guess I'm confused when you say raise it up, because my understanding is the reason this is an issue is you just said that the road has become smoother, but isn't this also an issue because the grade of the road has increased? Is the grade of the road the same?
grade of the road is the
And
same.
what you're saying is the reason water is accumulating is because it's no longer being retained by a rough roadway.
Correct. Yep.
Can we just make the roadway rougher?
no.
I mean,
So you can.
All right, so can you just take us through and explain it to me like
So,
on 5,
yep.
like what the proposal here is?
Worst case scenario, similar to what we did on 5 Oaks Lane and Oak Ridge Drive, is we'd pretty much go to the driveway. I don't know exactly our limits without seeing it, a survey of it to see exactly what our slopes are. The city has to maintain certain slopes for proper drainage. So I can't say, okay, we can go right at the driveway, but it'd be pretty close to the driveway is. There's options of how we can save.
Can you back up?
Yep.
Just like, what is your proposal?
The 130 is reclaiming.
Walk me through it and how this
Reclaiming
fixes the
from
problem.
roughly here down to here.
And that includes in front of his house.
Correct.
Okay.
The
Now,
troubled area.
we also got a complaint from someone else, didn't we, Becky?
I think it was right across the road, right?
Was it right across the road? And that would fix that as well?
Yep.
Okay. And
Marcus,
how
where would
much?
the water go? I'm sorry, Justin. Where would the water then drain?
Yeah, so there is storm sewer at the end of the cul-de-sac. Right there, there's a catch basin, so it'll go right to there.
Okay.
And-
And
and
how
so-
much are we redoing that we already did?
Again, I don't know exactly the full extent of it, but
But a little
20,
bit.
30 feet, yeah.
Okay.
what,
All right.
what
That's-
is
That makes sense.
this orange line? Is that the storm?
This is the
Sewer?
this is the storm sewer, yep.
Okay, and so, okay, and just this drops in elevation down to that point?
Yeah, so from
Then there's a ditch there or something it runs to, or is just into more storm sewer?
it
or
just
something?
oh yeah, down here,
Yeah.
just like a ditch. Yep.
Okay, so that's off, is that Montemita there?
It'd be pretty close, I think. Be pretty close, yeah. Yep.
Will there
Yep.
be-
Oh, it looks like that actually runs over to,
Will there be any
Okay,
issue with
okay,
that
I
person's
see.
driveway where I see the yellow line going?
That should be under.
Is that a pipe? I think that's a pipe.
It's a pipe.
Where
Yeah, there's a,
right here?
there's a
Okay.
sewer,
it's
that would be a
underneath
pipe.
there.
that
Yeah, that's
goes
our
into the ditch.
storm pipe. Yep.
So how do we know that this will fix the problem?
Well, I did shoot, and we have a lot of grade coming from cul-de-sac up, and then up this way. So there's a lot of grade. It's just I don't know if when this cul-de-sac was first created or when we extended wherever it got extended, it was just I don't know what happened before.
I mean,
There's grade.
I like the idea that we're not significantly redoing stuff we've already done, but I'm concerned that we don't know for sure if this will fix the problem.
Yeah.
So Marcus, is there a way to make sure
Yep.
that this fixes the problem?
I would suggest that we just get survey of it, and then my gut feeling is that we'll just be able to replace 30, 40 feet and get it straight line graded out. I still think we might have to touch up his driveway some
Okay.
because his driveway is quite a bit lower if you look at like the other ones around. It just ties in lower.
Yeah.
But if we can just do a larger patch, if you want to call it, full width of the street, and then we'll mill an overlay over top of that. So it'd save us money in the reclaim process for the remainder of it, but we'd still do a whole new road.
So can you, what do those dots exactly mean on this map?
The dots are our robotics that we did last year. So this, like, just recap you some. The red is going to be like the worst
So it's
worst
condition.
streets.
Okay.
Yeah, it's-
So we do have some issues in that street. So it is on our list. It wasn't until 2031, I think.
So
But-
this is all awaiting a survey though. So a survey would have to be done before we could determine whether this would work or not. From being over there and trick or treating a couple weeks ago, I mean, it was ankle deep in that driveway.
Yep.
And like just kind of like eyeballing it, almost like it's like in between two downhills. So how would you, like in my head, I'm like, how would you adjust the grade that significantly to prevent that from happening?
Yeah. So it is on two downhills. So you go to that. It'd be the cul-de-sac side, high point, and you're pulling grade out of it.
Mark,
So go ahead. Sorry, Ryan.
no, please, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say that low point shouldn't be there. It should have never been there.
But
Whenever
that was existing.
they're existing. Yep.
But, I mean, just looking, I have Google Maps open right now. I mean, raising the road, would you be encroaching on people's, like, yards?
Some yards will have to be repaired. Yep. Yep.
And, like, graded to the road? I mean, it, like, looks to me significant, the amount of elevation you'd have to make up to get it to drain to the end of the cul-de-sac.
Yep. It's mainly going to be focused in that area because beyond that high point down, it all drains that way anyways. We did check that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I guess again, you know, I'm with Ryan on this, that like, I don't want to like screw anyone else over either, right?
Right.
So I don't want to fix his problem only to have his neighbors now have water, right? So
yep.
what do we need to do to make sure this is like an acceptable solution for everyone? Is that just the survey you're talking about?
I think the survey, and then I'll actually be able to give you guys solid numbers of what's the stamp to fully fix this, and then what can we do to save to lower that 130 down. So if we're looking at like budget wise, I think budget wise we were planning for 67,000 this year, and that was construction costs because that's what we were going off of before. So construction cost is $100,000. That's what construction costs looking at. The extra 30, that's the survey, the engineering that we didn't do last year, roughly.
Okay.
So it'd be, and that's kind of assuming worst case scenario. So that's why I gave that breakdown of if we can just do a mill and overlay in spots. We can do alternates like that cul-de-sac right here just to finish this area out, or it's going to depend on the cost of what we're looking at.
It seems as though the first step is to get a survey so that we know the extent of the problem.
Yep,
Okay. And then we'll know how much money we have in the budget.
correct.
And where that needs to be allocated for next year. And then the following year is a whole new
Yep,
situation. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So just so I understand this how much of this 130,000 is that full amount? How much of that do you think is essentially waste due to rework?
of the,
I know
of the
immediately-
100,000,
Yeah,
maybe 5-10,000, I would say.
5-10,000 is basically the waste due to rework there, and the other thing we're just kind of is just reshuffling.
Yep.
Okay.
But that's not including like repairing the driveway and stuff because we didn't do anything.
But
bad this
that repairing, we're talking maybe another 5,000-ish on that. So we're not talking $100,000 in screw up.
No.
Screw ups is the technical term. We're talking about 5 or 10,000 here. And do we need to like handle this a little bit differently going forward to kind of
Yeah.
prevent this stuff more broadly?
Yeah, so that's kind of why I broke it down in the memo of like the 100,000 is roughly what we would have done like last year. The 30,000 is the part that we opted out for the time being. So that would be the actual getting the survey, having me go make sure that we're not having low points, that kind of stuff. And
Did
then
we opt out of surveys? I don't recall doing that.
No, I don't ever think we ever opted out.
I always had assumed that since we hired an engineer, it was going to be engineered. So that might be just my confusion, but
Yeah, I believe that the direction was to just get quotes. We were trying to match what has been happening in the past, which in the past we just had a contractor come in and give us
What,
quotes for what needed
Seems to be an error.
what would
Yeah,
you
I mean,
recommend we do going forward, Marcus?
The thing I would recommend is if it's like a seal coat, we don't need a survey. But I think that we should have a contract, like a written up contract with completion dates, substantials, have them have a bond, that kind of stuff, so we can hold them to some of these things that we need them to hold.
Plus a survey. Yeah.
Yep, I think that would be worth having like an open house in the next, like, upcoming months, for example, to kind of make sure that we're not missing anything. See if there's any other issues that are going on there. In the soon future, I think we really need to look at our water main.
Could you
stuff.
put together a list of recommendations for us to look at, a checklist maybe for us?
Yeah.
That would help me.
Yep.
Please.
Kind of out of the time frame where we can add more to budget, so we're already crunching on this one, but
Yep.
It seems as though it might be a good idea, though, to get the survey, to start that
absolutely.
process.
I also think we need to do something in the meantime for the homeowner, because he currently will be the ice rink that we can all use for the winter.
Yeah, so the thing to do from now would be maybe to look at if you have a local contractor that has a skid loader to just cut a ditch in. That'd be the only thing. There's not going to be a great solution. We could ditch all the way through there, but then you're going to have to add culverts to each driveway to get it down. Or, I know you said that it would drain. It drains after like 48 hours, I think. Did you say it last time, roughly-ish? But,
Is it still doing that, though, because now we have a smooth surface that's keeping the water there?
yeah.
I've got a giant puddle there right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as, I know the Washington County Conservation District does help with rain gardens. Would it make sense to put in something there to actually drain it for the time being, even if it is a short-term fix, so that we can actually get the budget behind this to make the permanent fix?
Yeah, if that's the case, then we'll want to do the boring, like tomorrow, because most contractors are going to be, I mean, they're wrapping up, closing out for the year.
Are there curbs there now?
No,
There was, okay, so there wasn't before, there isn't now.
no, that's going to be one of my bullet points is how we're be managing stormwater, because if you're relying on bituminous edges, even bituminous curb is not, it's pretty outdated as
Yes.
far as,
Doesn't do
you see it in the rural area a lot, but you can't get a constant slope off bituminous curb, and then, as we found out, you're always patching it.
Seems that the.
When the snowplow hits it.
Snowplow hits it
Yeah,
all the time,
exactly.
too.
So, like, you've seen, like, Matamita is going, even on the smaller roadways, they're still doing concrete curb. Some of the other ones are doing like an inverted curb, or an inverted roadway, like this. Sometimes having a concrete gutter through there, just so concrete is nice, because it's easier to control the slope.
Are
Between
those roads, if we did an inverted road, is that road wide enough to actually fit a snowplow? Or are we just gonna end up with a really slick center?
Yeah, that inverted roads is like all of Waukenee's roads are inverted. They have smaller roads than you guys, so it does work. Yeah, it's not that. This picture is very drastic on on it, but I mean it'd be no different than like a normal crown is the opposite, you know.
Okay.
So
Marcus, so to solve the immediate problem for the time being, and then get some good data to go forward when we can then budget for
Yeah.
a permanent fix, what is your recommendation then right now?
for the temporary fix, if you guys have a local maintenance guy or someone to just cut a ditch where a spot for the water to go off the road.
Would that be in his yard, though?
Yeah, it'd have to be. There's
Andrew, would you like to talk about this? Would you like to address us about this? I mean, would you like to comment at all? Yeah, okay, all right.
Hold on, Andrew.
Andrew Jackala, 15 Oak Ridge. Yeah, I think in the immediate, I think the most important thing is to get the pool away from the edge of the driveway. And not only for my personal use of it, but it truly is going to create a heck of a hazard when we start having freezing. So
So are you okay with cutting a ditch then for
I
time
would
being?
I would be okay with
Okay.
doing that for a temporary solution, as long as it gets taken care of in the spring.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. All right.
all right.
Thanks, Andrew.
Well, I mean, I think that makes sense to me to get the survey done and then do a ditch.
We
Direct,
need to have the utilities located.
well, and I think Marcus, you need to be involved in the ditch to make sure that it's done in the right manner,
Yeah.
the right place, the right depth, whatever.
Yep.
So is that something that Jim and Ron could get to, do you think, Becky, if we made it a priority for them to do it like this week?
Jim is out of town
Okay.
this week. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Do we have a local contractor?
Well, Steve Dean has.
Steve Dean could do
Steve
it.
Dean could do it. Let's reach out to Steve and see if Steve can get it done.
Would you
I
like to
mean,
make a
Ron
motion?
maybe can, but I don't want to commit him.
Justin?
without-
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll just direct you to find someone to do it, whether that's Steve Dean or
Okay.
whoever.
I'll try Ron and then if I
Ron,
can't get one-
Steve.
This is this week.
I think it'd
Soon
be
as
I
possible.
was gonna say, I think it's not supposed to freeze really this week or next week.
I just don't
but
want to
we
like, I mean, it's getting cold, like it
Yeah.
was 32 this morning and like, once that ground gets hard, like, forget it.
I think you'd want to do it to both 16 and I think it's 15 is the other side on the opposite side of the road.
Check with the homeowner, make sure
So,
they're okay
yeah.
with that.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
I'll move to direct staff to implement a temporary fix with a ditch and then to authorize Marcus to do the survey to put in a more long-term solution or,
All right, may I have a second?
I'll second Kathy, as
Kathy, any other discussion, further discussion on this?
long as you locate utilities and we don't break something else, please.
Are you,
Marcus.
sorry, one last question. Are you thinking ditches on both sides of the driveway?
It would be whatever side's the lowest. You just have to do one side.
Just one side, okay.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Yeah, and thank you for your patience, Andrew. Hopefully we can get this, of course, yeah, okay, all right. Our next item is Matamidi Lost Lake improvements.
Yeah, so there was an open house I attended. There was a lot of opposition towards it. So it sounded like the city staff is gonna revisit there's a couple ideas that were thrown out of potentially changing other parts. It wouldn't really affect Birchwood Village at all. But they did send me, since they sent me the HydroCAD modeling of what they're proposing, I haven't looked at it yet. I don't think it's worth looking at it until we get a solution that they're more likely going to be looking at long term. Essentially, just to recap, is they looked at adding an additional outlet here, and what they'd be doing is they'd be lowering this lake a little bit lower on larger when there's a larger event happening. So like on the thaw season, as soon as you would see open water, they start lowering it in preparation for it. And so there was a lot of people that weren't really pleased, and they wanted to look at any other option. So it's a whole system of
Does,
Isn't
All-
it the other one over
all
that's like
these.
the, it's not the one we were looking at, but one over is the one where it floods, right?
Yep, right here. So it backs up through this
Oh, it
culvert
comes through
here,
under
through
there?
this.
Oh.
So it's a whole
the whole system?
system.
Does that drain into, so if you go up a little bit in your diagram,
Yep.
so the little pond north of, not, is that, guess north, I don't know. Does that drain into Hall's Marsh then?
So it drains through here, and there's a ditch on this side of
Okay,
it's.
so it doesn't.
It does not.
Okay.
The one thing, and I walked it the other day, and it looks like it's at a lower elevation than what Halls Marsh's invert is, like from this ditch to
Yeah.
the invert.
But isn't there two? I think there's two outlets. There's the normal outlet, which apparently is plugged right
I
now.
saw that. Yeah, I saw.
And then there's the higher outlet, which is the overflow. Emergency.
I was talking about the lower.
You're talking about the lower. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. But again, I still think whenever a solution is closer to a resolution, I think it'd be worth looking at just
Okay.
confirming that.
Sure.
But I walked it earlier this month, and that's what I saw. But yeah, so they'll be recapping, revisiting. They didn't really give, their goal was to do it next year, but given how the meeting went, it sounds like there's going to be another open house here soon once they talk with the DNR and or city staff.
Do you think it'd be useful for you to attend that open house then?
Let's see what is proposed
Okay.
at that time.
Okay,
So
all right. Okay, any questions for Marcus? Mark?
I do have another question for Marcus. Are we, in regards to the next thing on the
Oh, no,
agenda?
just the Halls Marsh, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
Okay, we're good? Okay, great. All right, now we're on to Halls Marsh maintenance discussion.
Well, I have some feedback on this one. So we had gotten a letter from Ruth Jensen regarding some issues with Halls Marsh with the drainage,
yep.
which you have read as well. So that's something we need to reach out to Rice Creek Watershed District on, but they also just sent us the response to the plop for the Preby Lake yesterday.
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't in the email chain for the drainage, so I saw it when I was scrolling through
Okay.
today. I haven't got a chance to look at
I
it,
just saw it too.
but I'll look at it, and if I'm guessing it'd be worth just reaching out to them
Mhm.
on it, and then I'll draft a response to
Okay.
what they got. I think it's sent today, right?
Yes, it was sent today, but we should probably sit down and review that as well and see
Yeah,
what they came back with, and how many of our points they didn't address or did
Yeah.
address in whichever way.
I
yep.
like how you frame that. How many points they didn't address first?
There were several, so
Yeah.
we'll see, but.
Yeah.
That also sounds like Kyle had left in addition to, was it Angie? I don't remember the last
Kyle,
it
one.
was,
it was Kyle, and then it was,
Um,
I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
And
And she
this
left.
is like our,
This is our
they're on their
fourth one.
Third or fourth person, so.
Yeah. So that would be one that I'm curious how much has changed since the last one, so.
Yep.
Ruth, you're here. Would you like to speak out to this at all, to us? Yeah, I mean, you don't need to, I just noticed you're here. About Halls Marsh? No? No, no, okay, all right.
Part of it is, and to
As I sit here and listen to it, I can't really, I'm sorry, but understand what you're talking about.
So just to bring everyone up to speed, the latest, which probably took some of the urgency out of it, is that my understanding is they got some objections to the folks that are up on Preby Lake, to drawing down Preby Lake. And so that plan seems to be sort of off the table at this point for them to do that. And so there's less urgency for them to address our complaints and our concerns, as well as, we don't have quite as much leverage anymore for that. And so we met in April I think it was, Kathy.
We had responded to theirs in September of '23.
Yeah, and we met in April
April, and
here
they're-
at City Hall and came to an agreement that they were gonna basically add Halls Marsh to their operation and maintenance agreement to take care of and to make sure that the drainage through the marsh is what it should be. And we just got that back from them like this week. Yesterday. And so I haven't had a chance to look at it. I don't think Kathy has either, and Marcus hasn't. So we don't really know how much, based on our past conversations with them, we suspect that there's probably, they probably didn't address half of what we wanted, if that. I'd be happy if they addressed half. But my guess is they did their usual lip service. So we'll have to take a close look at that. Now, there's a separate issue that Bud and Ruth raised, which is that the outlet to the marsh is plugged. So I don't know what we want to do about that. Maybe just have Marcus interface with them and get them to
I'll just
plug
reach
it.
out to them, because at least the plugging and stuff, that can happen. That repair can happen in the winter and stuff still too.
Yeah.
That can
And
happen.
then the
right
other issue she had brought up was that the inlet where the pipe goes, there's still water standing in that, which
Yeah.
would be back in there, and that we do know that that pipe is broken, which is likely what is.
As
not
I
right
understand
away,
it,
but
it's
back
the-
further in Teichschmidt.
So I understand it, that pipe isn't broken. What it is there's a T. There's a T where apparently the city had a pipe from Hall's Marsh that was supposed to, from Teichschmidt, that was supposed to drain some of Teichschmidt, and that pipe is broken. But the regular one that flows from Privy isn't. That isn't correct. That's my understanding.
Okay.
And that could be wrong, but.
I was thinking it was the specific one towards Hall's Marsh.
Yeah,
but in
Mary
either
Sue,
case-
I know, you know this, right? Or Jennifer knows this. And that, okay, so Jennifer, I was accurate? Okay, yeah, Jennifer from the Parks Committee and soon-to-be mayor is saying that that's accurate.
Okay. But in regards to that one, part of the issue with it always having water in it is that we do have that runoff and all of the silt and everything
Yeah.
has not been
Yeah.
removed from that inlet.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think
That's
that's part of the
that problem.
maintenance thing, yeah.
Yeah, so,
The pipe by your house, when the outlet gets fixed, and as long as it's functioning properly like they say, that'll drain that pipe.
That should help with that too, okay.
Yep. That'd be
Ruth,
a-
would you like to speak? Yeah. Okay.
The Ruth Jensen, 701 Hall Avenue. The pipe itself is not plugged, the culvert. There's junk in front of it,
Yeah,
okay.
but
It needs to be cleared anyway.
that needs to be cleared. And the problem is that they put in a little, I don't know, 8-inch high curb, and there's just a legion of bogs waiting to float over that and go into the culvert as soon as we get any rain.
yeah, so the device they designed to keep crap out of the culvert is now just accumulating crap in front of the culvert and blocking the water flow. So, Marcus, that might be a good thing for you to look at and see if that should be designed differently and get with them and tell them to
Fix it?
fix it.
Yeah,
Weird, they used to have kept everything away.
Yeah,
We don't have the fish problem, though. Used to think we had.
a fish problem.
The weir was supposed to keep fish in White Bear Lake from
Jumping the
Going back.
marsh.
Fish might actually help the ecosystem there. I mean, like they're bottom
Thank
feeders,
you,
right?
Ruth.
Like carp and stuff. They're-
aerating's good. Yeah.
Marcus?
You know what I mean? Like,
Mike? Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I was there 2 days, well, on the 10th, and water was flowing in.
From the lake or?
No, from Preby. It was coming in, I took a little video of it flowing in. Nothing was leaving, of course. But it just seemed odd.
Okay.
well, they are known to, I mean, when they were reconstructing that whole thing, oops, their dam failed
Maybe
and,
someone had their sprinklers on, we haven't.
yeah, you never know. So,
All right. Anyway, that's all I have on that one.
All right, well, thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yep. Thank you, Ruth and Bud. Yep, all right, and Justin. All right. Okay, our next item is D, the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit throughout Birchwood topic. And I think at our last meeting, we were taking a look at the need to get a policy to change this, required by statute. And Marcus, you looked into this a bit?
Yeah, so I reached out to one of our traffic engineers that does a lot of these studies. And so Becky included the email that he had, essentially just giving the city a heads up of other cities have gone the route that you guys have gone, and just take precaution because it only takes one lawsuit to reverse it. And unless if you do the full study, it doesn't guarantee you that it's not going to get reversed in the summary of it. So he gave some examples of, the cost differences, and then cited in there a few times, just to what look out for. But
So just to clarify, Bolton and Mink considered the traffic study that would allow us to legally lower the speed limit. And a rough estimate of the cost for Birchwood was $25,000 to lower the speed limit legally on Cedar from 25 to 20 miles an hour. And there was a question about whether the speed limit could be lowered without adhering to state statute. And my reading of that was, number one, it's easy to get traffic tickets thrown out if you do that. And number two, you risk state aid funding if you don't do that. Now, I don't know, does Birchwood even receive any of that funding? I don't know that we do.
no, you don't.
But, right, yeah, but it certainly seemed to me like,
State aid
No.
funding
Yes, we do.
Thought we did.
I had called, we're supposed to be.
usually for communities above 5,000.
No, they changed it.
Oh, they
They
did?
changed it, so it's based on, used to be that, but my understanding is we are now supposed to be getting money, because I had called about this.
Okay.
And they changed something, the state legislature changed something, so, because it used to be sporadic, where every year, when the legislature felt like it, we would get money, but now they changed it, so even communities our size are supposed to be getting money, so if we haven't gotten any money on this, we should follow up with that, Becky, and see, because it was, and I don't know how much it was gonna be, I mean, it's probably something really small, like $5,000 or something like that, but, I mean, every little bit helps, right?
I do remember.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, in the budget.
So, because I did call about that. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, we were looking for any penny we could find for our roads, and
We still are.
we still are, yeah.
Yep. But they would also apply to kind of continue, Ryan. It would apply if we ever got state funding. That
or
would.
grants or
correct,
things.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That would also be where you're.
I do believe we need to comply with the law. My question is there a way to do it for less than this $25,000? Is it something that can be citizen-led if they're guided through it and can do the homework, or is it a
Yeah.
technical thing that needs an engineering firm, Marcus?
I guess I haven't experienced it as a citizen-led one,
Okay,
so I don't really have a whole lot
okay,
of guidance there.
I say
I'm-
try it.
okay. All right,
I
just,
mean, we're not intentional, I mean, if we have a citizen-led one, right, Margaret, I mean, from what I understand, right, is when we get into this trouble, it's because we didn't have anything, not that it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna guess that there's some wide latitude in what's good enough under this, because it seems clear the legislature wanted to give communities a little more power in setting speed limits and doing so in a cost-effective manner. And so I think if we lead these folks through it, I think I'd be okay going down to 20 miles an hour if we have the policy and if it meets these guidelines in the statute. I don't see
yeah,
any reason
I
not
think,
to do
I
it.
think that's a great idea, and I think our challenge now, though, is to go through that process then, to make sure that the citizen-led group does the homework.
So,
gets it done.
so one thing on that, right, is Matamidi had to have done this when they lowered the speed limit on 20 on that same road. So I think going and seeing what they did and using that as kind of a starting point for then, okay, what did they look at and what
They
are the
had
things?
WSB.
They had
their
WSB?
Traffic study.
Yeah.
Yep. they
It's
had
like
to-
like an 80-page document,
Right.
and we
The thing
need to
that I
find
would-
something probably from a city that's a little
Be
more similar to.
Cautious
Birchwood.
is I think at the end of it, I don't know this for sure, but my gut reaction is at the end of this, it's still gonna have to be certified by an engineer. And,
Doesn't say that in the statute.
okay,
So-
and I don't know because I haven't done a city ran one, but
I'd be comfortable not having it. I mean, just a city that uses this authority must develop procedures to set speed limits based on the city's safety, engineering, and traffic analysis. At a minimum, the safety, engineering, and traffic analysis must consider national urban speed limit guidance, and studies, which I'm guessing we could find. Local traffic crashes, which we could call the Washington County Sheriff's Office and just ask them what reports of crashes have we had, and methods to effectively communicate the change to the public. We send out an email and we post signage. I mean, it seems somewhat simple to me.
Do we have any roads over 25 miles per hour right now? I
No, we
think
don't.
do.
I mean, we're not in charge of the road, but the county line road is 30, but that's not under
not
our
ours.
jurisdiction. Yeah.
Did Matamidi go to 20 or 25?
20,
20.
There's a big difference in the requirements
yeah.
Right.
between 20 and 25.
And I mean, I think while we're at it, we consider just all of the roads, a policy for all the roads, because the rest of the roads are 20, and
Sure. Yeah, I think the idea was the policy would govern everything. Yeah, and there's only a little bit that needs to be changed from 25 to 20.
Yeah.
All right, well, what's our next steps? The Road Safety Committee is no longer standing. Cora, would you
I
like
don't
to
think-
address
I
us at
mean,
all
Did
on
we,
this?
but did we disband them? I don't
Well,
think we ever disbanded
think-
them, so I think they're
well,
technically still a
We
subject.
technically still, they had the authority to go through, was it 6 months? Cora, would you like to address us on this? Are you still interested in spearheading this effort?
Well, Cora Hankins, 165 Wildwood Avenue. I was looking through some of the paperwork from Matamidi, and I'm also going to follow up with someone from Matamidi who spearheaded the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. It says in one of the things regarding the statute 169 that a local road authority can request MnDOT to perform an engineering and traffic study. So is that something we're interested in doing?
Sure.
We want to,
Do they do it, or who gets charged for that? Is that, I mean, that's the key, right? Like,
Right, yeah.
who pays?
So a local road authority can request MnDOT to perform an engineering and traffic investigation of a road. Really, the only road we would need would be Hall Cedar. However, MnDOT will determine whether to establish a speed zone. So they would say, well,
Can you tell me what statute you're looking at here, or what's your?
this was based on Minnesota State Statute 169. It was one of the provisions.
169 dot,
I don't have that.
Yeah, I think we probably
Provisions.
wouldn't want to put our fortunes into MnDOT's hands then to make the decision. I think we'd want to do whatever is required by the statute in order for us to make the decision.
Okay, okay. My team members on the Road Safety Committee felt that 20 to 25 grand for doing a study is really not probably what you would approve. So rather than looking at the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, let's look at what we can do on the roads with the bike committee, putting up signs, putting up, things to reduce speed in other ways than dropping the speed limit to 20 miles per hour.
Yeah, and I think those are good objectives. And I would like to thank you, Cora, and the rest of the committee for the really good work you did on this. However, we don't have to abandon the 20-mile-an-hour initiative if we do have some citizens who would like to explore how to comply with the statute without a formal study. But, a professionally led study has to be formal, but, yeah.
So where do you want to go with
I
that?
think your suggestion's good, and I think our challenge now, though, is to see if we can get a group together who would like to explore the possibility of doing a citizen-led study.
I'm willing to do that and help with that.
All right. Would you like us to authorize or continue the authorization of the Road Safety Committee to continue to look into this?
I'm not
issue?
sure what we would be doing.
Well, it would be
You'd be creating this.
creating a,
You'd be creating this study. So you would basically develop citywide procedures to set speed limits based on the city's safety, engineering, and traffic analysis. At a minimum, you would have to include in this policy the National Urban Speed Limit Guidance and Studies, local traffic crash information, and methods to effectively communicate the change to the public. So, in my opinion, what that would be is you would essentially go to the internet and look up National Urban Speed Limit Guidance and Studies. I know that there's a lot of those, probably, I think there's a website, 20 is Plenty or something like that. 20 is Plenty, and I think they have some studies that suggest that pedestrian car crashes below 20 miles per hour, I believe, are significantly less severe than ones that are above 20 miles per hour. And I think that you would dovetail that with the analysis that we don't have sidewalks in Birchwood, and so everyone bikes and or walks essentially on the side of the road, making it potentially dangerous for pedestrians and bicyclists. And then local traffic crashes, you would just contact the sheriff and say, hey, what are some of our statistics? And then just methods to effectively communicate the change to the public, which is basically, you could have open houses, you could have, send emails, things like that.
What was that, the national studies, what was that, national?
It says, so it's in the packet, it says, it's the subdivision 5H of the state statute. So it's must consider national urban speed limit guidance and studies. And I would just start by looking up 20 is Plenty. I think just Google it. I think comes up with a website that has all kinds of studies and stuff about speed and crashes and things like that.
20 speed limit.
20 is plenty.
20 is 20?
20 is plenty.
Or 20 is plenty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it just seems like this might be a good path to go down, just to see whether we can comply with the statute. And it doesn't hurt to try it and see if that flies.
Because when I read the statute, to me, what this is saying is sort of a lightweight version of a traffic study instead of a full-blown traffic study. It's more or less, we want you to do some homework rather than just set this at 20. But we recognize that you might not have $25,000 to hire Bolton and Meg to do your traffic study for you. So to me, that makes the most sense. But
Okay.
Would you like to continue on with the Road Safety Committee for another bit of time, Cora?
Sure.
And if your other members don't want to continue, we certainly could call for more members too to join.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, but should we make a motion to continue the
yeah, I'll
tenure?
move, Justin.
All right, to continue the tenure of the Road Safety Committee. I'll second that. Any other discussion?
Could we pull this off the agenda until you come back with,
Yes.
and I know you may have questions or need things, and that's fine, but let's maybe pull this off the agenda until there's,
Something to look
something to look at or is needed from the council, that sound okay?
Well, I was just going
So,
to
yeah.
extend the tenure of the committee so that they can.
That's fine, and I'm happy to do that, but I guess unless we have something to move forward on, like, let's,
Oh, we'll not vote on anything
Okay.
except for just authorizing them to
Okay.
operate
Yeah.
as a committee.
yeah,
Right.
I'm just suggesting we maybe don't need an update every month here.
Oh, no,
so
no, no,
it's-
just, I just
yeah.
like them to be able to continue.
Okay, yeah, that's what, I agree with that. I agree with that. Continuing, yes, but, so,
Okay,
There's one thing I would like to ask is for Marcus to do the crosswalk from Owl Street to, is it Owl to Birch?
That we have as part of the lift station.
Part of the lift station? Okay. And then still do the stop sign that we wanted at 368 Wildwood?
yeah, that's all been decided. That's
Okay.
been approved.
Okay.
Those have been
We're working
approved.
on ordering those and getting those going.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Corey. Yep, no, all that's under control, that's ongoing, all your initiatives, and then this is our last one, so.
Yep.
But yeah, you're authorized to continue the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
We haven't voted yet,
Yes, we need to vote.
Margaret.
Sorry, yeah, you'll be authorized in a moment to continue the good work. May I have a second?
You seconded.
I did. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, thank you, Cora. All right, our next item is E, first reading of ordinance 2024-1101, runoff changes. Justin,
Yeah,
would
so.
you like to give us context?
Yeah, we had an appeal recently that someone used this code section against the home building project, and Marcus, I believe, indicated that sort of a literal interpretation of the ordinance would pretty much prevent construction of just about any house, because, the previous language talked about, no construction or alteration shall be done so as to increase the rate of stormwater runoff from the parcel. There's a lot of problems with this. Like, number one, what standard are we using? Is this a 20-year storm, a 30-year storm, or whatever? The other thing is that it's quite literally impossible to build with this language interpreted strictly. Just by having a driveway, generally we want to have our houses above so that drainage doesn't drain into their basements. And so that's just having a driveway is gonna increase the flow from their properties onto the road. So, in developing kind of a replacement, the thought I had is okay, well, what are we trying to accomplish with this ordinance? And what I came up with was basically we're trying to prevent flooding and other undesired effects of the water. So I thought, well, why don't we just say that rather than, so this is what I came up with. And like I said in the memo, the planning commission liked it. They approved it by 4-0, with the exception of this, landlocked basins. I talked to Marcus about this. His view is that we need storm sewers, and while I don't disagree with you, it's a matter of dollars and cents. So, for now, I think this kind of changing this a little bit. And basically, we sort of leave it to the opinion of the city engineer. So, I'll just stop talking and we can discuss.
Discuss, okay, all right. Does anyone have questions for Justin?
Awesome. I'll move to approve ordinance 20, or I should say, I'll move to send it to a second hearing.
Okay,
Ordinance 2024-1101.
all right.
I'll
All
go
seconded? All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
thank you for putting that together, Justin.
Hi. I was reading.
All right, our next item is F, first reading of ordinance 2024-0301, solid and hazardous waste management. All right, Ryan, are you the
I mean, I think we should give Becky I did a little bit, but let's give Becky a good part of the credit. Do you want to, I can introduce it if you want, but I think you get the most of the credit here, so.
Yeah, so thank you, Ryan, and Ryan worked on this as well, and Foth has done a significant amount of work on this. Foth. Stop, you do that every
Engineering something or other.
FOTH, some nonprofit that helps with recycling ordinances.
Okay.
So we worked with their template and then made it work for us. Is that the idea?
Well, they took what we had done
Okay.
and done several revisions. So what you're gonna see is 2024-0301 is the combination of 401 and 402. And that is originally Ryan's revisions and then Foth. And then I did some comments that you guys may or may not want to talk about. And then 2024-0302 is just repealing 401.
All right.
So I have a couple comments if we're,
Yes, go ahead, Ryan.
for thing. The 402-030, section 3, cart placement and day, I would just like us to consider, there's section 3 and section 4, and both of those relate to screening of containers.
What page, Ryan?
In the agenda,
77.
it's top of 77,
Okay.
bottom of 76.
Okay, got it.
And it's points 3 and 4 there, cart placement and time of day and screening of containers. And under 3B, it says on non-collection days, said containers shall be screened from view. If carts are stored outside, they should be secured and maintained in a stationary manner. And then 4 says, contradicts 3B a little bit and says, except on the day of collection, refuse, yard waste, and recycling containers greater than 96 gallons in volume shall be screened from view. I know we had some discussion and disagreement on this issue in the council before, and I'm happy to have a little discussion. Again, my preference is not to criminalize a third of Birchwood, but because I think we have an awful lot of people who don't screen containers. But I think Margaret and Kathy, you were a little bit more in favor of screening of containers. I would like to pick between one of those two options, so.
I don't believe I was on that group, but okay.
Well, okay, so maybe it's,
Mine is outdoors,
okay.
so let's hope not.
well, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I
but-
think you mentioned, Kathy, that it would be nice not to have, the first thing you see in everybody's,
Sure.
by the street is people's trash containers.
I also don't want to make us an HOA either, so.
No one wants that, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a screener, I'm in favor of screening, but I'm certainly not, it's not the hill I'm going to die on here.
Well, and it's also not the hill I'm gonna die on, I don't think. But so I do have
I
a,
don't know, do other council members have
Distinct
opinions on
preference.
this?
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, I'm just concerned about the screening because number one, there's no enforcement mechanism for, calling people out for not screening their garbage. A lot of people are pretty respectful and they keep their garbage next to their house, like, kind of out of view. So I think that's just an unnecessary step. And honestly, how it's gonna be. People are gonna come up here and yell at us because someone doesn't have their garbage screened, so.
I can just hear the complaints now, like,
And it seems as though
It's just a great way
we require
for-
screening now, and it's more honored in the breach, is what you're saying anyway.
So,
Yeah, it seems as though it's a fait accompli and hard to enforce.
I would get rid of both 3 and 4. Like, I don't know why we need to be regulating when people put them out. If someone wants to put them out at 2:30 the day before, because maybe they're
They're going
leaving
on
for town or
vacation or
whatever,
whatever.
right? Like, who cares, right? Like, we're not an HOA.
I don't
so-
think we've had issues with people having their garbage can out typically, so I don't think
Yeah.
we need either of those.
I don't think either one of those matters. Is this like for our recycling grant? Is that why we're doing this again?
Yes. I
Do
mean,
they
oddly
require
enough,
certain things for that?
It needed
or-
done anyway.
Right,
Like,
Ryan
I'm
initiated-
glad you picked it up, because I kind of dropped the ball, but it needed done anyway, so it's nice to
Yes.
get it as a freebie.
We get money for doing this. We get money for putting stickers on our garbage cans.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't want to complain, especially since I think, Becky, you put in a lot of work on this, so I appreciate it. And I'm sure that this other group did as well.
This is more than, and we
It's-
also met with Washington County.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a lot of words to say, put your garbage in your can and use Birchwood's approved collector. It's just, there's a lot of stuff in here that,
We can certainly cut stuff out, and they gave us more than less, and that's why there's been opportunities to give feedback. So this is the time and the place. If you want stuff cut out, again, I think they left that more up to the
like, I
judgment.
mean, we have a section on ownership. The person or household from which the materials originate shall own recyclable materials until collected. And then at that point, the authorized hauler owns the material. Like, I don't know why that needs to be in our code.
Because people will go through and steal aluminum cans, or at least they used to do
cares?
that, and maybe we don't care, but
I do care if they leave stuff, like if they take stuff out and leave it all over, because we've had people scavenge and then not put it back, which
you know,
this will allow
Can we go
people to
back?
prosecute.
3 and 4 are coming
Yeah,
out.
I think
Can I
so.
go back to that discussion? Because
Yeah.
before we move on, have you guys decided to take 3 and 4 out of there?
I would like to.
I agree.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we don't gloss over that
Yeah,
one
no,
when
that's
I miss
fine,
it.
yeah. Good point, Becky. I would like to take 3 and 4 out. That would be my preference.
I would agree with that.
What does the rest of the council feel like?
Take it out.
I don't disagree that it's a little lengthy, but I think it's a big improvement. Take it out.
I am not going to go against the will of the group on this one.
Did you ever see there was online, it was somebody got in trouble from a homeowners association because they didn't screen their RV. So they put up a big fence and then had an artist
Painted the
paint a
RV on it?
mural
I
of the
saw it.
RV on the fence,
I think you read about that.
right? So like malicious compliance, right? Like,
Well, yeah,
you just see somebody
hopefully,
doing that, right?
hopefully we're not that kind of village, but
We are.
We are.
And then you had more you wanted cut out.
What's that?
You had more you wanted cut
Well,
out. I didn't want
I
to
do.
distract you from where you were going.
I mean, like, it just seems like a lot of words to say something, like, I just don't know that we need all this.
Page
and this-
79.
79?
okay. And it is a first reading, so, people can now get their arms around it and cut away for our final reading next month, too.
And there's some other things here that,
Well, so the one is like liens. We don't pay trash. We don't need that.
That's what I thought. Where are we on here? Page?
That's down further. So 79,
80?
well, so 79 does have, there's an error there where we have some X's in it, 402 XXX, where it's licensing and license responsibility that needs numbers.
Hold on, I need to find that one. I don't see that. Kathy, what's the page number?
Page 79 is what I have.
79, 4.0.
It's the first one that's a number. So licensing and licensee responsibilities.
Yep.
So it's 402 XXX,
Okay.
if we want to keep it, I guess.
You want to take that one?
Our trash hauler probably does have a license.
I would hope so, right?
Yeah, but that's what it says it should.
So I think we just need numbers on that one.
Right, the numbering is not on yet.
Okay.
Okay, so once we get all the content, then
And then
we'll
it'll do your
line the
numbering.
numbering. So don't pay attention too much to the numbering
Okay.
yet. Yeah.
And then the next portion I had seen that I was, like charging a lien, we don't pay for trash, so that wouldn't be something we would assess
I
because
agree.
we don't do that.
don't need to be doing that.
Right, and I didn't want to take the liberty of removing that, but I wanted to call
Just
it
take it out,
I think
please.
that should come out.
Thank you for doing that, Becky.
The tennis will send their hired goons instead.
Okay, what else?
Spoken from experience.
All right, so, go ahead, Kathy.
Hold on, I'm looking for more.
Oh, okay.
I have a comment or two.
Oh, throwing litter from a vehicle, they said you can't throw it onto public property, but why would we want to allow it throwing it on personal property? That just seemed like a weird little thing to require.
Don't we have another?
Anything throwing from a car
Yeah,
seems
I
like.
was-
We have a general.
have a littering
litter-
ordinance,
littering
too.
ordinance,
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
that-
But they have throwing litter from a vehicle, like it's,
I mean,
something- but only on public property, which I thought was odd.
What page are
And
you?
only from a
Uh,
vehicle.
81, very top of it.
Got 401.201.10.
That one, yep.
Can we just double check, because I'm pretty sure we have some sort of a litter ordinance
I think we do too, which
that,
I just don't think we need to state that you can't throw litter from a vehicle onto public property, because then it applies you can and onto private, which is weird.
And just get rid of the word just,
Public.
it's just not
Property.
litter. People should
Well-
not
Throw
litter.
things from a vehicle.
and I would also
Say litter.
suggest, don't,
Litter.
they shouldn't be able to toss from a non-vehicle either.
That's true, whatever.
So if we want to, no throwing anything onto anything.
How about we
and
just
also
say
other
no-
verbs are included.
How about we just say no littering?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
just-
right there.
Makes more sense.
Quick search, there's already 3 Minnesota statutes about not littering.
Yeah.
That's,
Can we just take
okay.
it out then?
Take it out.
Let's just take it out. This is
Okay.
pretty superfluous, I think.
Yep.
Good.
Take out.
3 statutes about littering? 3.
169.42.
Yeah, we don't need another one.
169.68 and 169.421.
Department of Redundancy Department.
Good call.
Do you think about spitting on public?
Yeah.
All right.
I also felt like it was just very wordy for the additional requirements and provisions. I'm not sure how much of this is required, but there's a whole lot going on here.
In 401.310.
Just the length of said document. I was not sure if we are able to cut any of that.
Because this stuff, I just don't know what to do with it. This stuff looks like kind of the stuff Foth added.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assumed
And,
as
I
much, but
mean,
I'm not sure how
We
much
can
is
take it
required.
out.
Well,
Okay.
I'm not for the money, which is why we're doing it. Are any of these required, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, no kidding.
Say it again?
In order to receive the grant.
No. They are there to assist us
Okay.
with the revisions.
Let's make it short
There are
and sweet.
certain things that Max Dalton from Washington County said, we should keep this or that, but this is really up for grabs for us now, and then I'll bring it back to them.
Okay.
So it's really for Birchwood Village to design, they're using industry standards, and they've worked on a number of different municipalities, so they took words that they think have worked universally and gave them to us to decide if we want them or not. But
we wanna
there's
do?
nothing that like, you have to do this or you won't get the grant. They want us to look at our ordinance and make it current. That's what we need to do to get.
I mean, I looked at this and made some tweaks, and cleaned things up a little bit. I wondered, do a couple council members, I don't know that I need to go through it again, but do a couple council members want to kind of take the knife to this a little bit separate from me? Or do we want to, I mean, 'cause
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
mean,
be a
this
little hard to
is-
do in a meeting.
I mean, like, just as another example, 4020302, carts. The authorized hauler shall furnish and deliver carts for SW and recycling in small, medium, and large sizes. Well, what if they have a fourth side? Now they're all, fourth side, now all of a sudden they're violating our ordinance. Carts will remain property of the contractor. Why do we care, right?
Well, let's tighten it up, Justin, but we don't have to do it in this meeting.
Yeah, I don't
let's-
think we need to go over all my nits in the meeting, but I just think that there's like 15 pages of garbage collection ordinance, and, I mean, I just
Will
worry
end up
we.
being our longest
Yeah,
ordinance.
it's our longest ordinance, and it just won't be enforced, nothing will come out of it.
No,
and it's
people
just-
won't read it if it's.
People won't read it,
too
it's
long.
just, like, literally, we need 3 provisions, like, tennis is the city council has an authorized collector, and you have to use the authorized collector. Put your waste in, and don't litter, and that's it, right?
Would you like to do that?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Justin
Axe
will
away.
work on this, and
Yeah,
then I'll make a motion to order a second reading on this.
I'll second.
Okay.
do we want to wait for a second reading? Because
Do you think that that could be
We've been
done?
I'm
doing
gonna
this
take
for
the- I'm gonna-
months.
I think that would be wonderful, and I think,
This is out here
I
since
think it's okay. We've
February.
had a lot of time to consider these. Yeah. I think we're okay with your judgment on this, Justin.
okay.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion then to order a second reading after Justin will take care of the edits and public hearing. May I have a second?
I'll second, Kathy.
Kathy? All right, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
So we have two folks that are patiently sitting here. Do we want to ask them if there's some?
Are you waiting for a particular topic?
Our neighbors notified us about the Halls Marsh maintenance.
Okay,
We live right on
yeah,
the edge of
yep.
Halls Marsh.
Okay.
So we just don't want to be out of the loop on things.
Yeah.
Oh, good, yeah,
Trying to listen a
Yep.
little better than we probably have.
yeah, yeah,
We're very interested in anything related to Marsh.
I think
Okay,
that's
yeah.
covered. I think that's covered for tonight.
Yeah.
Did you have any more
So, but
questions about it?
Welcome to stay. Okay.
So it sounds like there is a problem with with the outflow being plugged, which probably needs to be cleared.
Which is surprising because I think along our property, the water seems low.
Would you just tell us where your property is? So we
Could you
can-
could you go up to the microphone and just introduce yourselves and, yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Mike Werner, 711, is this on?
Yep.
Mike Werner, 711 Hall Avenue. We're the last house in Birchwood Village before it becomes Matamidi. So the Halls Marsh, the road that goes out to several houses that are on the lakefront, which kind of divides the marsh from White Bear Lake, runs right next to our property, although there is a kind of an adjacent wedge in between. So the road isn't directly on the edge of our property, but there is sort of like a part that fans out, but it meets up at the road. And then on the other side of that road is the drainage ditch that was talked about earlier that kind of feeds the water from Lost Lake into White Bear Lake without going into the marsh. So we're basically the last house on the Hall Avenue side that faces
Is
Marsh.
it 711 Hall Avenue?
Yes,
Is that your address?
711.
Okay. I'm just looking at the map here.
Is your driveway like a little bit in Matabidi? Is that the house?
Our driveway or our property line extends into the road, and I think it actually cuts into Matamidi slightly, because it's sort of a V.
Driveway is in Matamidi because there was an issue with the fire hydrant, remember?
Well, they needed to redo the water pipe to the fire hydrant, and so when they redid the trail, they actually dug up the pipe and took out the end of our driveway and repaved it and put in a culvert, which made it look like part of the trail. So we had an issue with that, which was, we talked with them and they said they could do a cutout, and that's why we have that little island where our mailbox is.
All right.
Yeah, because they would walk up to the fire hydrant where,
Oh, gosh, yeah.
that was like the end of the trail all of a sudden. It's like, there's not a trail here yet. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're right at that sort of intersection where the road is in our driveway, and
Yeah, well, as you heard, there's kind of new information that council's going to be grappling with about the marsh, and, hopefully, we'll come to it. Yeah, come to a conclusion. All right, well, thank
nice
you
to
for
meet
coming.
you.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
yes, all
I
right.
remember before, I think there was sort of like a metal fencing, a grate that was further back. It was like 6 feet away from where the culvert inlet was, and I haven't gone to look at it lately, but I don't think that's there now, and that's part of the reason why I think things are making their way into the inflow.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, yep, have a good night. Yep.
Thank you.
Oh,
Don't forget your purse.
Oh, yeah. So Margaret, we did approve the second reading for
Ordinance 2024-0301.
F, right? So we need to do G.
Yes, we're going to do that right now. Okay, all right. And now we have item G, first reading ordinance 2024-0302, scavenging of recycled materials prohibited. All right, we have our first reading. Is this, Ryan, is this one that you had?
This
worked
is
on?
just a repeal, and because 401 is being merged into 402,
Okay,
and just as a little bit of background, there was all kinds of stuff in there about a joint powers agreement that hasn't existed for years, and it just didn't make any sense to Birchwood. And so I think repealing it and merging it into 402 is appropriate.
okay, great.
So
All right. I'd like to make a motion to order a second reading and public hearing on this repeal, this ordinance stating the need for the repeal.
I'll-
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, our next item is H, 2025 budget discussion. And I always just like to include the budget discussion at this time of year on the agenda in case anyone from the public is here to weigh in. I see Jennifer, you're there. If you're not here to weigh in on that, then that's okay. If
answer.
any of the council members would like to weigh in at this state, next month, we'll finally, do any tweaks and approve it. But is there any comment today from council? All right, hearing none, we can move on. All right, our next item is I, planner salary discussion. Ben, thank you for your patience and waiting this long.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, I know you do have the budget item
I know.
next month coming up, so I thought I would introduce this. I've spoken to some of you about it over the last few months. I was hired in April of 2023, and at the time, I think it was Kathy who said, could we revisit this in a year? So it's been a year and a half now. And at that time, my proposal amount, based on some information, if you remember, Mr. Thatcher was the engineer and the planner, and he didn't quite know how the time broke down. And I had kind of submitted a proposal based on what Becky and I had talked about. And I had actually had a call with Mr. Thatcher a little bit later with a mutual acquaintance of ours. And so I put together that proposal, and I was asked, well, could you cut that based on what Mr. Thatcher had said, and would you be willing to revisit it in a year? So I said yes, I'd be happy to do that. And so it's now been a year and a half. I enjoy the city, and I think I've heard all good feedback. I know you've got a new council coming in, but you all know my work other than Mr. Isley. So I thought this was, because of the budget and because of you being familiar with it. And I think if you talk to staff and my fellow consultants and everything, they'll give you that positive feedback. So my request was to go back to that original contract amount that I had proposed, because I found, if you see in the memo I wrote, the hours that I've put in was pretty accurate for what I had based that on. So, I don't know, I'm just respectfully requesting that you consider that, but we needed to revisit it anyway after a year.
Thank you, Ben,
you.
for doing this. And have you been able to bill back any of your time at any of these projects recently?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what the totals are, but there are a few projects that Reese or Becky have asked me to keep track of.
Okay.
It's a little difficult, some of them, like a couple of these appeals. I don't really know. It's not really fair to an applicant to bill back to them when it's someone else making an appeal. But the applications, remember there was a lot split a few months ago, and so whatever hours I put into that,
it's expected that. I think our application fees are really low. I mean, really low compared to some other cities. But I don't know if there's an escrow that's drawn from, if they're just told, you're gonna be billed for staff time. And then other ones where people have had me walk through sort of a lot split or something like that, where we don't have an application process. I think there was one right on that end of Hall Avenue that they split a lot. And I ended up billing back, I mean, it was many months worth of emails back and forth, but it was 8 or 10 hours or something. So there are avenues like that. We had talked, Becky and I had talked about like building permit reviews or something. Is it appropriate to attach a review fee to that people can expect rather than only if it blows up or becomes complicated or something? But, so I don't know where all that has led, but I have kept track of hours on applications and things.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, all right, thank you, Ben. Does anyone on council have questions for Ben?
I just kind of am thinking that this is, we tried an experiment here to have him on retainer. But I'm not sure that experiment is really working. It's just becoming very difficult. So I guess my preference would be to just go back to just billing the homeowners directly and having him on an hourly rate that we just, charge the homeowners. Because it's just too difficult. Like, the idea is that, we would have him on retainer, and then he would be there to help residents. But it seems like it's kind of being taken advantage of in terms of like, there are certain projects that are just monopolizing his time and using up way more. And then we said, well, okay, for those projects, let's recoup that directly.
Right.
And I just don't think that's working. And I just think if this is really what's going on here, I just think we need to start, because there's no incentive, like a financial incentive for people to not monopolize your time. So I would just propose we go back to what would your hourly rate be?
Are you willing to do it on an hourly basis, Ben?
Yeah, I certainly can. I do it in other cities.
Okay.
It's much easier on a fee because you don't keep track of 15-minute phone calls and
Right,
Yeah.
try
right.
to estimate how many emails you had and, if that's what you'd like, sure. What my hourly fee would be, I
I think we charge something, it's in our fee schedule now, I think.
charge for my time.
Yeah, I mean, because you,
100 an hour, I
Yeah,
think
I
is what
think
we
it was,
charge.
Is it 100?
but, certainly I'm not putting you on the spot.
No.
You can propose your,
Right. I'm all over the board in my other communities. One, I lived there for 20 years and I do it sort of as a favor and I charge $85 an hour, which is
Would you
well
like to
below
offer?
market.
right,
The other ones are 105, 120, 140, and then another one that I'm on, actually a fee, and they estimate, when they charge people back, it's 125. So
okay,
it's all over the place. But
okay. All right.
What would your proposal be for here, do you think?
Based on, I will say it's a difficult city.
Sorry, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No,
And you don't have to decide it tonight either, Ben, you can think about it.
Yeah, if you want to think about it, Ben, I'm sorry, I
Come
should.
back to us.
Yeah,
It would be in the 125, 135
Okay.
range, something like that, I think is fair. I think it's a good rate for someone of my experience.
okay,
If you had a firm or a, like Marcus's firm, Bolton and Mank, their senior planners, I think, are much more than that. I'm an independent, so I don't have that overhead, and I'm not reporting back to my company, so it's going to
Yeah.
be a little lower, but.
okay. Yeah, and then I'd like to talk to Becky too, just about kind of how much has been billed back and on what projects and what the frequency is. So I'll check back with you on that too. And then, all right, we can consider,
Yeah.
right?
Does anyone else have any thoughts on this?
My comment is, I know we had put a contract in place with you, and it would probably be wise just to update the contract if we're gonna move to a
Yeah, we have
different,
to
a
update the
different
fee
building.
schedule,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, the
we
fee
certainly-
schedule and the
certainly will
contract
when
and all
we come
that.
to a
Just
meeting in
wanna-
lines, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Sometimes we try things and it just doesn't work.
So-
This is one of
Yeah.
them, right?
Well, Kathy, did you have any questions?
Well, if we do go back to the hourly rate, we will need to account for him attending meetings and other things that I would anticipate the
Agreed.
city will be
Yeah,
paying for.
agreed.
so
Yeah,
to
there'll
make
have
sure
to
we-
be some
we keep it in the
monies
budget
in there.
for
Yeah,
that.
that was part of what I had taken out of, or I didn't propose, I
You
think
did not,
originally.
you did not, you don't charge for that,
Right.
but we should be paying you for that.
So Ben, do we? Yeah, never mind.
We took out the, or I didn't propose the hourly meeting fee. I think I had proposed mileage, and I think we had said, you know what, and I had said, you know what, we can just
Yeah.
waive all that, but I thought it would be fewer meetings.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
As on an hourly rate, that gets,
I guess what I was kind of thinking of
Yeah.
is rather than have you come all the way out here too, we could do Zoom or whatever.
yeah,
That way you don't have to,
yeah.
you
Sure,
know,
if you've
eat
got
those
that.
costs.
I know there have been some, a few touchy items, and
Some,
Rebecca has
yeah,
always said, it'd probably be better if you showed up, even if I'm sitting here and not asked a question. But
No, it's always good to.
the touchy
make
things
sure
might, your physical presence is probably better, but like,
Because you're very intimidating, Ben.
yeah,
Yeah,
So,
it's teasing.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, and I
Thank you,
think
Ben.
we'll consider, and then, yeah, we'll
yeah.
kind of put
If you
this on the
wanna-
agenda for the next meeting, kind of to make some decisions, but in the meantime,
Yeah.
yeah, we can chat too and with Becky.
Yeah, if
All
you
right,
got any
okay.
questions
Okay,
or any feedback, positive or negative, let me
Okay.
know
what's on it?
all right,
Thank
anytime.
you.
Thank you.
all right, thank you, Ben. We appreciate your work, thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Ben.
All right,
So is this on for next meeting then again?
Yeah.
Put it on the agenda.
Do we just want to, I mean, what is everyone else's feelings about this particular matter? Are we okay just moving back to a straight fee?
yeah, well, I do think though and with the proviso that we include monies in our budget for,
Yeah, for meetings and stuff. And the question being, like, does anyone feel like they want to keep the current?
well, the only thing I would say is that it would be interesting to know, now that we are billing on projects, I think the idea was, everyone kind of gets a basic one or two phone calls, and then after that, if the project expands, then they're billed, right? But how that's working. I mean, just how much money is coming in to do that little bit of research.
Yeah, well, we just recently implemented that, so we've probably only got a couple of months of data.
Data, okay.
Yeah. The other thing is he does give, like a half hour free, I think, or, minimal amount. So he doesn't start charging the
No,
resident
right,
right away. We're gonna get charged right away. So there will be some discrepancy. We're not gonna make up everything.
When you say, Ben, that our fees are lower compared to other cities, which are you referring specifically to? Our valuation-based permitting fees or some other fee?
No, like land use permit,
Like zoning,
UP or a
cup.
variance application.
Really? Like, because
In
like,
other
so we,
cities, they're $1,000, $1,500
okay, okay.
plus maybe an escrow.
Okay, all right, because I had seen 1,000 seemed a little high to me, but that may have been a year or two ago. Like, I would like to, could I talk to you a little bit, and maybe we revisit those, because I don't want to be behind other cities on those, so, okay.
It varies widely. I shouldn't say,
Yeah, I know, and I may go look at 2 or 3 and get bad data points, but okay. Because I do think that those fees are an area where we don't always recoup costs. I just don't like to move where I feel like we're outside of what the city is really charging in terms of like covering our costs, so.
We probably should.
Great.
I think you'll find some larger cities have lower fees, but they have
Lower
6,
revenue.
7, 8 staff members, and it's expected that that's
Yeah.
part of their.
Yeah,
It's those medium-sized ones or smaller ones who utilize consultants where those
application fees and escrows
Or a little higher?
Yeah.
All right,
think-
let's look at those a little bit too in the next month or two.
I think we should look also at appeal fees for these
I
appeals.
agree.
If this is
Yep, I
costing
agree.
staff time and money.
How many appeals have there been? Is it just two? I'm aware of two, the Drews and the one that's in progress now. Is there anything in addition to that?
Well, I don't know what you would consider the Tony Nicholas.
No.
That
No,
was
that's not an appeal.
really an appeal. Okay, okay, fine.
That
do
was
agree.
a
Yep.
ongoing something.
I'm kind of with Justin here, as I'm reaching my limit on free appeals pretty quickly, so, you know.
I do think we should bump up the escrow fee as well so that we recoup that faster would be good, so.
The appeals have been one of the most time-consuming things, I think, that I've dealt with in the city,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
definitely.
And I think we need to get Alan and ask him what we could bill back in an appeal. Because I don't know if we can, I don't know that we can bill back an appeal the same way we can just bill back something else.
Well, yeah, I mean,
True.
Who carries the cost of it, right?
Correct,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I think in some respects, like if they win the appeal, maybe we don't bill them, but if they lose,
Well,
it's kind of
Well,
like,
and then which can you bill
Right,
the other
like-
party then? If
I
they
mean, if the
lose,
city
right?
screwed up,
Like,
right?
Bill
I mean,
whoever
why-
loses.
Why should they,
Yeah,
why should they pay, right? But if
maybe
we were right, right? I
Okay.
mean,
we could have the Birchwood Wheel of Appeal.
Well, all right, well, Justin, you were saying you'd like to maybe move tonight on this, but Becky, do you have an opinion on this too? I mean, Ben, you like a retainer
Any consultant
With-
loves a retainer.
with, yeah,
Understanding that you
Yeah.
can get burned on it a little
can,
bit, but
yeah. But you're willing to do hourly, but right now we kind of have a hybrid,
right,
but we do only have a little bit of data to see how that's working.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion, I guess.
Okay, you don't.
Whatever
Okay.
works.
the ones that are. Many of the inquiries I get are, I'll respond to an email, and I do. You probably are aware I probably write more than I should on a lot of this stuff. You've seen it, but that's fine. I'm not keeping track of that. But then I get a response. Well, thank you for your response. I have a few other questions. Oh, thank you. I have a few, and it's difficult for me to then go to Becky and say, you know, I had an extra 45 minutes for these people because I was over the half hour. So it's those that kind of get lost in the shuffle where if someone got a bill from the city for $80 because they were emailing me, they would say, well, you know, what are we doing? But I think they've been doing a good job of making people aware. Sure, you can inquire directly with the planner, but it can't go too far.
Right, okay.
It's hard to, I think, for people to expect that just some normal emailing back and forth would result in them getting a bill.
Ben, do you have, from those emails that you have been receiving, is there consistent questions that we potentially could have put on the website so that people can get their information prior to having to contact you?
No, I wouldn't say consistent.
Nothing is,
Project specific.
Yeah,
so Ben, is it mostly homeowners? Because like, for me, it's like, I'm more willing to help the homeowners than I am the contractors. Because if you're a contractor, you're a professional, you should be able to read building code,
Right.
right? Like, you should be able to read zoning code and figure out what you can and can't do. And, you know, if you're a contractor calling, going, hey, what can I build here? It's like, well, that's kind of your job to know that, right? And what percentage is kind of,
it's probably 50/50, but often the contractors are calling on behalf of a homeowner.
that's what they're hired to do, right? Is
Yeah.
to like know the zoning codes, right?
Right.
So.
I mean, I get a lot of calls or emails on, 310, 312 Wildwood or whatever it is. the
Yes.
two Realtors
Right.
Yes.
or something like that. Those are probably forwarded to me half the time.
And those, I guess I would prefer we just not respond to that, because we can't give legal opinions on what you can or can't build. I would just direct them to city code and say, this is city code.
Yeah.
Here you go.
An example from this week and last week, someone has a non-conforming garage in
you know, front setback, side setback. They'd like to rebuild that, that's fine. You can do that as long as you don't increase the height and you don't increase the nonconformity. Well, our roof pitch runs north-south right now, and we're thinking of doing it east-west, so the views might be different. Okay, well, I'd probably need to get a legal opinion on that. Well, can I have my contractor call you? Okay, and then that turns into a, you know, I can show you my phone, it was probably a 50-minute conversation last Friday.
It's pretty frequent that we're referring people to Ben.
That's, that kind of
I
stuff.
would say, more than Marcus even, yeah.
Even
just
if it is a half an hour, those add up.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if
Just
you're
a
in a
pain to-
50-minute conversation, that should be billed.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. And those
Right.
are the ones that it's hard to keep track of, because I'll get, sometimes, you know, 5 or 6 of those a day,
Right.
and it's, none of them were more than 20 minutes, but going back and billing all that is difficult, so. That's why I love the retainer, but I
Spreadsheet.
understand if you,
Right?
it's what?
A spreadsheet.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
That he has to carry with him everywhere.
That's what
Well-
it turns into. I do it at the end of the day, right? And I go back and, but
Okay. Well, is this something that we'd like to kind of do a little looking into and?
what is it, is it what,
next
half
month?
hour we give them now, and then if it's
Yeah.
anything beyond that, so that's not working for you?
it's just difficult because I don't know what's going to turn into a project or an application. A lot of times it's, okay, I help these people with a lot of questions. So like this garage I'm talking about, I expected that that would turn into an application, either for a variance if necessary or a building permit. And just today, this guy's very smart, he's very involved, he knows a lot of stuff. But just today, he said, you know what, I checked prices of materials, this probably isn't going forward, please don't spend much time on it. So now I've got a couple hours in on that.
Right.
Do I?
That should be billed regardless, you know,
I agree.
To the residents?
to the resident. I mean, there has to be some notice, obviously, to say, listen, if you're gonna sit here and use our planner's time, you get a half an hour. Anything after that, if you're asking questions, we're billing you.
Yeah.
You know, because we can't subsidize that, right? We just don't have a
Probably
budget.
need to tell them that in the call though, too.
Right. So we just need to communicate that to them, and then we need to collect that.
It's, that's,
I know it's an uncomfortable conversation.
Well-
I
well,
get to do
it's
those for my
difficult.
job.
See, I'm not saying this shouldn't happen, this should be this way. My number is published on the website, which is fine. You know, I
What-
get a lot of calls, and I don't ever start the call by saying,
Why don't we
Clock started.
stop that process and change that process so that instead of people calling you, they're having you call them and providing their information before they get a call from you or something. It seems like this is a process that's kind of open to, that's very easy to,
Abuse.
Well, it
maybe
is,
not
but-
abuse, because I don't think this is intentional, but I mean,
at the same time,
It's-
if
it-
I'm the
you know.
resident, though, I expect that there is city staff available to answer some things, right? It's,
yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
we just don't have the
fine,
money
but, like-
to subsidize all that. That's the problem.
right.
And so at some point, we just have to be frank with our residents and say, listen, guys, I can help you for half an hour, but after that, I have to bill you. And I think you need to communicate, to be honest, I think you just need to communicate that with them, because, you know, to a certain extent, some of the problem here is self-inflicted, I think, on your part, because I
Yeah.
think you just need to be clear with them and say, if it passes a half an hour, I can help you with little things, but I'm not authorized to do any work other than that.
So what you're saying here is even under an hourly rate, you're still gonna offer 30 minutes on the city's dime
No,
to residents?
Well,
That's what he's saying.
that's what we do now, right?
Well, I wanna ask if that's the way that's gonna work going forward, are we offering 30 minutes of hourly work on the city's dime going forward?
the other communities that I have to keep track of hours, there is a line item, I guess, just general city business. And in the communities, the one who I have similar hours to this one, it ends up being whatever, 8, 9, 10 hours a month, where it is just phone calls here and there. And the city expects that there are going to be, it helps them in the long run because they're not inundated with questions, you know, of a, you know, a city administrator who doesn't have that answer. So it helps, but it's just billed as that. If it's just short, one response to email or a phone call that lasts 15 minutes. So it's general city business. I don't bill every resident. If it turns into an application for a land use permit or land use of any kind, or a building permit even, I'll say, here's how much time I spent on that. It's those ones that get stretched out and don't turn into an application that I have to say, oh, you have to bill so-and-so for an hour and a half. And the city will say, who? What's this about?
So why are we different? Like, why are we using so much of your time than these other communities aren't?
I don't think you are. I'm saying that 10 hours-ish
Yeah.
is just those short phone calls.
Right.
The ones that,
Okay.
the ones that spill over and get longer are the ones that now, in the last couple months, I've been asked to keep track of. Those are different. And there's some that track over months, right? It's someone will email me and say, could you answer these questions? And I do. And then a month or two later, okay, I've done some more research. What about this? It's like, I don't know how to keep track of those or bill those. So, I don't know. And the appeals, even the, you know, Avery on Cedar Street, it was a Marcus thing, the drainage. But before that, it was, we're not happy with the building height, we're not happy with the setback, we're not happy with all that.
Right.
So at the time, we weren't keeping track of that, but would I lump all that back in to whom?
Right.
And the one we're about to hear on Lake, that's been, how many hours have we spent on the phone?
Yeah.
I don't either. I'll go back and look, but it's a lot. And at the beginning, those first couple of months that I was here, the 117 Wildwood, the Nicholas one was, I mean, that
A
was.
lot of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my point is you said that in other communities, you have about 9 hours or so, 10 hours a month just for general questions. But here, you're saying that, it seems like in Birchwood, you're saying that you've got, 22 hours a month doing that kind of stuff.
No, I don't think it's all doing that kind of stuff. Like, if you get a variance application, part of it is I wrote a report, I did the research, I've visited the site, all that kind of stuff. And I have been coming to one, sometimes two meetings a month, which, if I'm keeping track of that now, that's, more time. So if there's about 8, 10, whatever, sometimes 12 or 14 hours a month of emails and calls, if there's one application, and then if there's two inquiries from residents that I'm keeping track of and saying, hey, I spent 3 hours with them, that's the kind of stuff, it just adds up. And then, whatever permits I get from Therese to review, those are separate. So it's a bunch of little stuff. The general city business, I mean, is someone sees my number online, they call me and we talk for 15 minutes. Or someone emails me and I respond to them and they email me back and I respond again. And that ends up being a half an hour, which doesn't get to that threshold. Those are the ones that add up in a little way. And then the applications, the reports, the site visits, the meetings, those are the other,
How do your other communities, they just bill it hourly? How do they solve this problem?
How do they solve the problem of, I mean, they're not all trying to recoup their costs.
Okay.
We might be. Some want me to bill only things that have had an application, meaning a building permit, a variance, a CUP, whatever. And then others, well, let me think. Others, one community I have office time where I sit there for 4 hours. I don't have that community anymore. Until recently, I'd sit there for 4 or 5 hours a month, or a week, one afternoon a week, and people were expected, oh, the planner's gonna be here today, so they'd come in. But then that would lead to other work. But they don't often bill directly back to residents who are asking me questions like that. So
So.
it can all take different forms. I
Right,
guess.
so I guess back to my earlier question.
Yeah.
So most of your communities, it sounds like, they just pay for you to be on staff to answer these kind of questions.
Right.
And then they may bill when there's a permit that comes in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I guess my point is that, are kind of, if we were to pursue that arrangement, what would we be talking about, right?
Yeah.
For you?
Like half retainer and half billed?
Yeah,
or-
basically, like, you're on retainer, you can just answer general questions, but if there's a permit, then you bill hourly.
The one example, which is similar, I wouldn't say I bill hourly. It is a retainer, totally a retainer. And then what they did is they averaged out how many hours, when they went to the retainer, and they call it, just the flat fee. Retainer actually means a month ahead of time, but doesn't matter. They said, go average out your last, I don't remember if it was 12 months or 18 months or 2 years. And they said, do that. They said, give yourself a 10% cushion in case it gets busier. And that will be your flat fee. And then when it's project specific, let them know in my hourly. All I turn in for them is, here's my flat fee. Same every month. Here's how much time I spent reviewing building permits. Here's project specific, like these were the applications that I wrote reports on or interacted with the applicants. And then here's my mileage and meeting fees. So the total, I'll give you the number, just, I know you don't know the specifics, but it's a $3,200 flat fee every month. And then whatever I show under that for project specific is called pass-through hours, where they bill that applicant.
So they recover that
Yeah.
3,200 from the
I'm not-
applicant.
I'm
You're
not-
not involved.
No, it's just pass-through hours, and that's pretty common. I don't know how Bolton and Menk does it for you. Do they have a
They're just hourly.
They're hourly.
project number, though, assigned to every little? Or how does Marcus bill?
Yes.
If Marcus gets a half-hour phone call from somebody,
Yep, it'll come through with the address.
okay, the
So
address.
then we bill it back that way.
Okay.
I guess I want to remark here a little bit that my concern here is preliminary budgets are kind of in place at this point, and we're talking about an increase. I think your rate is roughly $19,000 a year, up to a rate of $28,000 a year. And that the reason I think one of the reasons we're talking about moving to an hourly rate is because I think there's concern with making increases to a budget that can't be increased at this point. And I don't mean to say I begrudge you what we agree on as a fair rate for your services. I think that this part of the discussion here, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's just some concern. We're trying to find a way to not put $9,000 into the budgets that we kind of didn't plan for, and finding out if we can just build that through a little more effectively or efficiently or.
I thought the budget was finalized in December, that's why I'm coming.
Finalized, yes, preliminary, no.
But I've also
So
been
once the
asking
preliminary,
about-
but
I've
once,
also been asking about this for
Sure.
a number of months.
Yeah, and that's not the point I'm trying to make, Marcus
Yeah, you have been.
agreed, or Marcus, I'm sorry, Ben, so.
I do like the idea of the pass-through thing, though, that I feel like that would be able to more easily recoup expenses, because we do have items that you are being used for, permits, et cetera, where we can keep the flat fee where it is and then bill through those. And then definitely we should put on the budget for next year, the adjustment needed. We have to certify our budget in September, unfortunately. And we can go down but not up, unfortunately. But I think that might be a good way to potentially get him additional fees on top of what he needs, because it sounds like we've been shortchanging.
What is that budget number for next year? And
It would be the,
618,000, I don't know. I gotta look. 618,000.
Well, you want the line
Oh, you mean
item
the whole-
for
Yes.
planner.
Oh, for the planner.
Yeah, it's your current, it's your current
It's
retainer.
19.2, and so,
Yeah.
So,
Started.
yeah, but that's just it. That's why I want to explore this idea of, you know, it doesn't really matter what you agree on. If you effectively charge for the pass-through, then you can pay him as a retainer.
Right.
Yeah, so, but you have to, yeah, effectively do that.
I'd say give everyone half an hour, like you know what I mean? And then just start billing. I mean, that's the only way I can see to go forward, is we just have to start billing people for some of these services. And like, I think some folks would kind of complain about, you know, subsidizing building projects that they're not involved in. You know what I mean? I mean, so if I'm not getting building permits, why do I have to pay for somebody else's building permits and somebody else's planner use, right?
Well, that's the same excuse people use for paying for schools, so I'm not all that concerned about
No.
everyone
roads
covering
and
their
lots of
fair
things.
portion of something.
Yeah.
But as far as like those who actually are moving with a permit, like, I don't want to begrudge people the opportunity to get information before they move forward with something. They could have grandiose plans and then determine that after talking to Ben that, oh yeah, I didn't think of this, I need to process that. It will save us time in the long run if they know what they're doing beforehand.
And it's a good practice. I mean, I always encourage people to talk to Ben because I want them to have that information before they get down the pipeline and find out they can't do something or we end up in lawsuits again. So Ben being involved from the get-go, from our perspective, it reduced risk in the long
Yeah,
run.
I think it does, and that's why, but, you know, the preliminary talk is, you know, on the city and on the taxpayers in general. But then if it's more, it needs to get built.
I mean, on the
think
other hand,
that's
too-
what we've been trying to do.
Right, if half of these are contractors, right? Like, seems like these guys come in and basically just ask you, well, what can I do? It's like, well, you can go to the website and look at our code and figure out what you can do too.
Did you just say you can do whatever you want as long as it's within the code?
Yeah.
could we, in order to,
Code was easier.
in order to kind of work this, could we, and continue to provide the half hour up front, could we increase the rate that we're billing after that half hour significantly to subsidize that first half hour? So let's say, you know, to crunch numbers here a little bit,
Yeah.
Ben bills us back at $130 an hour. We bill Ben's time out at $170 or $200 an hour in order to subsidize that first 30 minutes for people that use that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was kind of where I was going, is like, if we keep your rate the same and just say, we'll give people the first half hour and then you bill them the rest, I mean, does that make it up to you? Is that,
Keep my rate the same, meaning the hourly, or are you saying like a hybrid?
No,
Here's your retainer.
it would be basically, you have a half an hour with the planner. After that, we bill you whatever rate we're gonna charge, and it
So the
goes to you.
So the retainer is expected for all those kinds of things.
Yeah, just a
And the
half hour.
pass-through, if we.
And then the
call it
pass-through is
that.
everything after that, you bill.
Yeah.
So you make up the shortfall that way. Does that make you? I mean, I don't mean to like
think
put you on the
so.
spot, but like, you know what I mean? Because I'm fine giving people some latitude here, because I think for homeowners, it's really important, because I don't expect homeowners to know code. I don't expect them to know what they can and can't do. But I expect contractors to know that. I mean, if you have a license in the state of Minnesota to do building, you ought to know what the code is, and you've probably seen it enough times. But I think these guys get lazy, and they call up, and that's just how they do business. Like, hey, Wim, what can I get away with? Like, go look at the code, you
We
know?
do have a couple of pretty convoluted code sections.
And that's great to know, and like, bring that to our attention, and we can fix that. So if there are specific sections, and that's the other thing, Ben, like, you know, I'd like to see more of that from you. Like,
Well,
hey,
I think they're
thi-
well-written.
Yeah.
The CUP regarding impervious.
Yeah,
or land disturbance permits. It's a lot,
yeah.
right? But it's well done.
It's well convoluted.
And same with the building height.
Organized chaos.
Building height calculation.
Yes,
That's
Right.
been, there's been 8 or 10 of those in my time here where people are just like,
They don't
can
know.
you help me through this? I don't. And contractors, I don't have it in me, I
Maybe
guess,
we
to
need
say,
to
figure it out
simplify that.
yourself.
Wow.
But
What do
Especially
other
if they
communities?
figure wrong.
Kathy?
I was gonna say, except in the case that they figure it completely wrong, and then we have issues of the neighbor complaining about something, and then we have to redo, we
Yeah.
get something happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think the building height one, there is a fix, which I mentioned that when we were going through that, was just max that accessory height out at 18 feet. And if you need a variance or something above that as an average, you probably have a good case for it. You know,
But
things
you
like
need,
that.
but you need to get the variance on
Yeah.
that. Yep.
If you want to chat about, let's talk about that
Yeah.
over the next week or so, Ben.
Good question, Ryan.
Ryan had a question.
So, what do other small communities do to mitigate this? And what I mean by that is, like, what other tools do they use? And I've seen, I guess, other communities use like one-page explanations of like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what your grade needs to be, or like, this is
yeah.
what your footers need to be, like, kind of simplifying things for homeowners so you wouldn't be burdened by those questions.
Yeah, I mean, there are application checklists or informational handouts on certain things. You're never going to cover everything.
No, but I mean,
But I think
help us help you.
I think we
Like, what
have
do you-
some of that.
Well, Ryan put together that was building in the city of Birchwood.
And ask him to
Village,
summarize
which
it.
is not- That one's pretty good. I think that's a good guide.
Yeah, I think Ryan, you were, Hankins was working on a building in Birchwood pamphlet or something, and I don't know whatever happened to that.
On the webpage.
On the
website.
webpage,
It's-
yeah.
Website.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's just the first conversation is, have you looked at the pamphlet? And look at the pamphlet, and if you still have questions, then call me.
Perhaps we should put that right next to his name, where it's a quick check here first.
I mean, I'm fine with half an hour, but after that, I think your time needs to be recovered.
Yeah, and
I just think
we
that
have
has to happen.
We have that policy in place, so it should
We
be
have that
happening.
policy, so I guess the question is, given that, I mean, do you still need more?
Well, we have that policy in place though, but that goes still toward my retainer.
Oh, no.
What I'm
No, I think it
No,
should
no,
go
no,
on
no,
a
no,
top.
that should go to you.
I hope so, and I agree.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
saying
you
right
agree.
now, when I keep track of things.
Okay.
my-
Oh, okay, so then that goes to the retainer. Yeah, no, I mean, I
Well, let's
think,
change that.
Yeah, he's getting his monthly retainer.
That's why we're talking about it, because
Yeah.
we were trying to see whether that retainer was going to cover it, but
Right.
apparently no. We at Birchwood are heavy users of our experts, and so let's try to make it fair for Ben and our
So
citizens.
can we keep the retainer where it is on our budget and then do the bill through for any of those above and beyond projects that it goes to Ben? Is that a
So
possibility?
Ben sends us a bill, and then we get the money from the applicant and send it back to Ben.
For those that are
Right.
above and beyond the half hour?
no, I think what Ben is saying is that right now, after a half an hour, we bill them, but that goes towards Birchwood's budget to
Correct.
cover his retainer.
Yeah.
And I think what the council is suggesting is at least part of that money should go back to Ben.
Ben.
Right, so just like I said, he would say, he would bill us, we'd get the money from the resident, and we'd give it back to Ben.
I think that would be
Is that what we're saying?
that retainer number is probably a pretty good, like we were talking about,
Base.
8, 10, 12 hours, whatever.
Plus meetings and whatnot,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why wouldn't I just tell him to go to Ben then, and Ben just
Well,
directly?
Because it should come through the city if it's to our
You know?
escrow, et
Make
cetera.
some money. No.
Well, I'm not understanding.
well, it's like Marcus doesn't bill them directly, we bill them, correct?
Yeah, we have to bill them,
Yeah.
because it has
We
to
do
come through
bill,
us.
yeah, we would need to bill them, but he's not on retainer either.
Oh, yeah.
No.
But I'm talking about hourly billing.
So do you think,
I would think it'd be weird personally if I were working with someone and got a bill from him when I'm working with the city.
Absolutely,
So
that's-
I do think the bill needs to come from us and that we take his bill and then,
We used to
that
have
out.
that
But-
issue with our past engineer.
And if we do that, Ben, we need to be very clear when you're talking to these people that, listen, I'm authorized to give you half an hour. which I'm happy to do. But beyond that, I have to start recovering costs and I have to bill you at this amount of, per hour, because what I don't want is a lot of, and I think it needs to be clear that regardless of whether or not you file an application for building permit.
And I would even go a little further than Justin and say, the bill is like not per person, it's per property. And so if you're getting multiple calls on 310 and 312, that like, yeah, they got their 30 minutes, but the next builder that calls doesn't get another free 30 minutes there. Like that's.
Well, and
zero.
realtors and stuff like that,
know,
we just should
yeah.
not be handling those calls. We should just, we just say, no, I mean, we don't handle that, right? We just,
Yeah,
like, realtors,
I agree.
we don't give advisory opinions on that to non-residents.
And if
It's
you.
just legal liability we don't need, because listen, if we tell them, oh yeah, that should be okay to build on that, and then they buy the property and then try to build on it, and it turns out it's not doable, and you say, oh, well, actually you need a variance, then all of a sudden they bought a property in reliance on what we told them, and now we're legally screwed. So do not be doing that. I really would
and if
beg you not to be giving, just show them where the code is. Here's the code. You can make the decision on your own. I'm not going to advise you on this.
And so would this work for you to keep your retainer as it is and then, you know, bill that extra time after the
Yeah,
half hour per
I
incident?
I will say
Property.
yes. I don't know in practice.
Why don't
do
you-
that.
See how it works
See
and
how-
then.
Why don't
and
we-
see how
It's an
it's-
improvement
Yeah.
anyway, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't, you can think on it. I mean, we don't need
I
to
think it's,
like.
I think it's I think it's fine. It's a good, I think if I'm the one telling them you have a half hour of my time, that probably will limit some.
Yeah.
I mean, bad for me, I make less money than,
But
You still get your
and part of
return.
it is that because you're so open and accessible, people take advantage of you. And I think that, you know, by telling them, listen, the clock is starting, it hastens the conversation and people get to the point
think that's
quicker.
I would envision what it ends up being is one or two longer, you know, 2 or 3 hour conversations or meetings or something a month. And then if there's a variance application, you know, doing all that due diligence and writing the report, that ends up being whatever, 8 or 10 hours or 6 out, you know, depending on the.
I'm
That's
happy
what we'll
to.
get billed back, maybe just 3 or 4 things a month, I would hope. One of them maybe
I'm happy to, let's do this, but maybe not 18 months again, and let's, it's easy to adjust your hourly rate mid-year because that's not something we budget for. If that needs to change a little bit, then let's just change the hourly rate a little bit and get you more quickly to a fair point. So that seem okay, Ben? So.
Seems
okay.
all right, I will try it, we'll see. I haven't quite billed like that before, but I'll keep track of,
Hopefully it's simpler than our height code.
yeah, right. The one thing, though, we talked about maybe the variance fees, CUP fees, all that going up with the escrow.
Let's look at that too. Yeah, I've
Is
got.
that, though, is part of my hourly stuff expected to come out of that escrow that people?
Yeah.
I would think so,
Well-
yes.
I would think so.
So like if people
Oh,
have to
yes, out of
determine
the
as far as
escrows.
what that
Yeah.
amount is.
And
What
that's
is
nice,
the
'cause then
hourly
there's-
rate?
There's money there for
He
you
hasn't
then.
figured it out yet.
Oh, okay.
He's
But I do think we take whatever his hourly rate is and add a little bit, so we do recoup some of our fee.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, I
that
think
would be
that's,
fair.
that's a good idea. All right,
Oh,
well,
so you're
let's,
saying,
So if he says 100, we say 115, whatever
like
it happens
that.
to be, so that
I
we
like that idea.
recoup some of
he
it.
says 125 to 135 is what he's,
Oh, okay, sorry. So 125, we could charge 150, whatever it happens to be, where we bump up slightly so that we are accounting for some of those that are half hour over a longer
good
period
idea.
of time.
great.
Is
All
that
right.
okay to do? I think that's okay.
I think
Yeah.
it's okay
Should be.
to do.
Yeah,
as
'cause
long
we're
as
just-
not-
We do that for our inspector.
As long as we're not like moving the money to,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever we do, the.
It'd be for the admin
Birchwood.
fee.
No, it stays, it just stays within this
Yeah.
ecosystem. Yeah, right.
It's a heck of a band.
Well, I appreciate it if we're done.
Yeah.
So no action right now, correct?
Thank you,
Ben's
Ben.
gonna come
Well,
back.
do you want to just come back
or-
with a proposal on hourly rate and how this would work, maybe, and then,
If you could tell us the rates that you notice for other communities.
He has, Kathy, we've got it jotted down
Oh,
here.
you,
Yep.
no, not his
Unless you
hourly
wanna do
rate,
it
his
now.
escrows and,
Oh, yeah, he and
fine
Ryan are
doing it
working
now.
If we're gonna review it again in 6 months or a year or whatever.
Well, let's review
I'm
it.
comfortable with the, between there, the
Okay.
130 for me.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
okay.
And then we see, I don't know when you want to review and see how it's going.
Why don't-
Winter's a little,
We review it when you're ready to review it.
Plan on like,
Or ask her.
Bring it up.
when you see my summary there of here's how many months I was 0 to 5 and 5.
Right,
Winter is a little bit different.
yeah. So we have to average it
Those
over
are the lower.
a number of number of months.
let's aim for reviewing it in like July so that we can
Yeah.
get any adjustments made to that September. Well, we'd start in August and then September, we have to certify.
Next summer.
Next
figure it
summer
out.
for the, you have additional review?
Okay. And I don't know how to bill or address the current appeal.
I think
Just-
that's retainer
That's
for
just
now,
for now, it's-
until we figure out
We'll have to
something
change our
different.
fee schedule and everything for that, but we will
We'll have to look at that.
build in some costs for that, because that has to happen. We're just losing money. I'm okay just moving forward with this plan right now. I mean,
Shall I work with Alan then to update the,
yeah,
The
let's just
contract.
update whatever we need. I mean, unless, I don't know, Jen, do you have any thoughts? Okay, she likes the plan. All right. Let's just go with that. I mean,
With pass-through for anything above.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a balancing act, right? I mean, we're giving residents a little bit of your time,
Yeah.
but at the same time, for those that are using you more, they're gonna have to start to pay because, we just can't afford to have you
Sure.
Kind of feel like
continue
this
to.
should be annually as well, so it's like if you hear from one house every year.
But at this point, I'm understanding this is a theoretical discussion. No motions have been made, nothing is changing.
well,
in
I'd like, maybe I'd like to make a motion to have Mayor Ford work with Ben and our attorney Alan Cantrud to update the
Oh, that's good.
contract with the parameters we discussed, 130 as an hourly rate, with the retainer being the same as it is now.
Okay.
And then talk about the terms of it, how that will work.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, we'll work together on that.
I'll
All right. Do
second.
we need
All
a,
right.
oh, we
Um,
second? Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So-
Motion carries.
Sorry, Ben, can you come up with, or maybe Becky, this is better for you, I don't know, can you come up with kind of an idea of how much we're spending on these appeals? Just so that we can level set on how much we need to be charging.
Sure,
Thank you.
And if there's outliers in those appeals,
yeah.
what those outliers are? So like,
What do you
there's
mean?
one that was very expensive and it skews the number of what an actual appeal would cost.
There's only been two.
Okay.
One was
Yeah, well,
Cedar Street, right, resulted in,
I'm sure a
Marcus's
lot.
must have been 5,000.
he told us,
See, the
yeah,
thing is
roughly,
Marcus
yeah.
is paid different. So Ben's on this retainer, and ultimately, I think because of that, this is gonna be a cheaper appeal.
Well,
Time-wise, I
yeah.
don't know that it was that much different, though.
I
so-
guess then the
guess on
question
how
is
many
how much
hours.
time are you spending? Because I'm guessing we're not gonna be able to recover all of it at all, because otherwise we'd have like a $10,000 appeal fee, and I don't think that's reasonable. But just to give us an idea, a basis of like, this is,
Well, Becky
reasonable.
knows on this Lake Avenue one, it's been,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd have to go back and total all the stuff, but.
And then
it's gotta
like
be-
even things you haven't dealt with,
What-
like data requests
Yeah.
that we've been processing, and a lot of just.
I mean, and
What-
that's the other thing, right? Staff time.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
reasonable to,
What,
the data requests are different.
what were you saying,
They're
Ben?
related to the-
You were gonna give us a ballpark on the Lake Avenue hours,
Yeah, it's gotta be approaching 20 by now, of just one.
20 hours?
So that's
Okay.
$2,000
The
worth of your
appeal? Oh
time,
my gosh.
essentially.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
Almost
depending on that rate that you
2,500.
got.
It's what?
It'd be nearly 2,500.
if you do the.
Yeah, I guess I was
100
just
days.
using 100 an hour,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I'm
I mean,
not
I think we
mentally
need to look,
challenged.
I think we need to look at, see what other cities do on appeals, and I'll try to take a look at that over the next couple months.
Yeah, I don't know
So,
that they will
and-
spell out what they charge for something like that. Not that I recall in the other codes. that
Well,
I'm
their
familiar with.
fees and whether they bill any of the time back to the appellant or anything like that. So I'll look into that. My suspicion is, I know White Bear Lake charges quite a bit for an appeal, and we charge
I've
nothing.
only been involved
so-
in one appeal until I came to Birchwood.
Yeah.
I'm not
We're-
surprised.
We're litigious
So,
here.
Well, yeah, we need to, we have
true. I
the
mean-
structure of the fees, I think, encourages this a little bit, so. And I don't want to discourage them completely, but I want to make it so that people are
Complaining on, with purpose?
complaining with purpose. I like it.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I have to mention about the appeal process, and I'm just thinking about this, and I don't mean to open up a can of worms, but the appeal process does say that it has to be brought up within 30 days of the city making the decision. That hasn't been the case in either one of these appeals because it's just not feasible. Those issues weren't uncovered until well after 30 days, after building permits were issued. So when Alan responded, or we responded to the complaints, we gave them 30 days from the date that they received the response. So if, just a kind of a heads up, if we're gonna look at reworking that code,
I don't think we meet often enough to make 30 days.
30 days
feasible
is
for
really
people.
tight, and by the time people realize something's going up, it can be 30, so
30
you've given some flexibility on that.
Just the scheduling.
It's
of
from
I've
when the
gotten my
decision
permit.
was made is what she's talking about. It's the
Right.
30 days, and we've just been very flexible because,
Yeah.
I mean, it,
Well, it's difficult because what they're actually appealing is a building permit, right?
yeah.
Which you don't know when it's issued, when somebody pays for it and picks it up, when the work actually starts. And they don't, the person who's appealing probably doesn't see the results of that work for
Months.
months.
Absolutely.
And the other one that didn't turn into an appeal or hasn't yet is the garage height,
Right.
average height for the one on, was that Wildwood also?
Yes.
Wildwood.
That was a lot of time for everybody to put into that, which, if it's not an appeal and it's someone complaining, and I spent, whatever, 10 hours on it, or more probably, what,
That's just
If
gonna
it's
have to
not
be
an appeal,
retainer,
why are we spending time on it?
Because it's a complaint.
It's a
It's a-
complaint,
it's
city
a
business.
complaint.
Or anonymous.
It's just cost of doing
It's the
business.
cost of doing business. It's a resident
We
complaint.
just have to work through it, and then the tighter all the information is when these permits are granted, though, the less scope there is for complaints.
Well, I mean, and part of it is we've been kind of treating the 30 days from when the complaint is resolved. So a lot of these, they start with resident complaints. And then that gets, because the appeal is from any decision of the building officials. And so the decision of the building official is on that complaint. And then we're treating the appeal as an appeal of that decision on the complaint.
So can I ask, to me, the complaint process should be very limited in scope. It shouldn't include a review of an administrative decision. You shouldn't be going back for a complaint and reviewing your calculations. That should be an appeal. If somebody is gonna go and file a complaint, that really should be that because the homeowner is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So,
Well, I mean, but the point is that like, if I get a building permit and sit on it for 30 days so that my neighbor can't complain about it or appeal, and then I start my work, right? Like, I mean,
Well,
there's kind of an,
yeah, I mean,
like a fairness issue there of like,
I'd be fine with, I think we could reword the appeal thing
yeah,
a
that's
little
fine.
bit.
I mean,
but, like,
that
There
was,
is gray between a complaint and an appeal, though, because if someone writes, I have a complaint,
right.
or if someone writes,
Well-
I have an appeal, we're gonna treat those completely different. So
Right.
that's confusing from an administrative.
Right, and the-
I think it would help to,
And the complaint, I mean,
Let's make an appeal form.
good thought.
Yeah.
These three ones, the two appeals and the complaint that we're talking about, though, those all had unique, I don't know, circumstances, or
But
it was often a complaint about, oh, I think you interpreted this wrong.
Then that
So
should,
then,
I'll tell you, Ben, I don't think that's a legitimate complaint. I think that you could review your work in that case, but I really think that
yeah,
you should be
yeah.
treating that as, that should basically be an appeal.
Yeah. At least two of these, though, our process may not have been airtight on how it was reviewed. Get into the
Yeah, I
weeds
get
here.
that. Okay. Maybe, and this seems like, it seems like we're getting a little off in the
Yeah.
weeds
Yeah,
here.
let's wrap it up.
Ben, like, I might be interested in just talking to you offline a little bit about some of this too, and seeing if there are things we can improve, because I think there might be, but this is getting a little,
It's 9:00.
You get a
we were
half an
trying to
hour
pay
call with
you a different rate, and now we're off, like, taking more of your time, so.
I like
And
the
this is,
appeal
and this is the
form, though,
crux,
a
and this is the
lot.
crux of the problem. Everyone wants
Right.
to talk to Ben.
Right.
Okay, well,
We have a lot of
thank you, Ben,
confusion
and we'll
with
be in touch.
complaints
I
and
appreciate it.
Okay,
appeals.
all right. Great, good night. All right, our last item is J, Administrator Updates. Becky?
Okay, so, yep, we got an attorney resignation from Alan Cantrude.
Can I, do you have, I'd like to just discuss that,
Yep, go.
but finish your,
That's
finish your
all,
sentence.
I mean,
Okay.
just informational at this point. I did reach out to the league to try to get some RFPs, so I have some samples. I haven't put anything together yet. I didn't know if, where you guys wanted to go with this.
Yeah, and his last day will be November 30th.
Correct.
All right, yeah, Ryan, please, you had a comment?
I mean, I guess I'm a little concerned that, for example, we have an appeal we just mentioned, and we're
Yep,
train wrecking toward December without a city attorney
I
here.
agree. I'm with you.
Is there something interim we can do here? Hire somebody at an hourly rate, even if it's, you know,
Becky has reached out to the league to find out if they have some recommendations
you know,
on that.
Well,
and-
all I've reached out for
mean-
is an RFP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They also should, be able to maybe to see,
it seems like maybe we would, do we want to authorize posting an RFP? I mean, I'm a little
Maybe.
concerned that an RFP isn't going to get,
Can we have
Results.
Alan come in just for another month?
yeah.
Sit through our December meeting?
I'd be willing to talk with Alan.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, that'd
Talk
be
with him.
awesome if we
Okay.
can get him to stay a little bit longer, at least until we can put something together.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to get, I mean, the one thing, the timing of this is unfortunate because I don't want to saddle the new council with, hey, you don't have an attorney in January. Sorry, guys. I don't know, maybe Alan would be willing to stay for another couple of months just to ensure a more smooth transition.
I'll talk to him.
Okay.
Okay. Do you guys want me to do anything else then in terms of the RFP?
RFP,
or
unless
just-
Alan wants to reconsider, I mean,
I guess I would say if, could we try to make some, Margaret, you think you might get a chance to chat over the next week or so? And then I would almost say it might be worth a special meeting to get things rolling if we don't make progress with, even if we do, like if Alan wants to revise things a little bit, like I'd be happy to come in and, you
Yeah,
know.
I'll
help-
talk with him
help-
as-
Help get this resolved, because have some concerns here that
Sure.
this is,
I'll talk to him as soon as he gets back from his hunting.
okay.
All right.
I would like to also reach out to the League of Minnesota Cities as well and see if they have someone who can offer legal counsel in the event we need it in the meantime while we are hiring.
I wonder if we can't pay, who was it?
Paul.
Paul Merwin,
Just to.
to sit in for
the
at
event
least the
we have
appeal.
something come up that has, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
when
just
we,
kind of a
when
spot
we get
basis.
Paul in, it's because we've filed a claim.
Yeah, we get sued, but
I'm hoping they'll be willing to help us while we hire a new attorney if
Avoid a
know
claim.
we have someone leaving.
We can
That-
cross our fingers.
so we can avoid a claim.
We could at least.
So we're asking for free help from the league,
No,
like as a
no,
consultant?
No, we
No.
would pay them.
We would pay them, but I mean, as far as like, if we have someone who we can contact regarding something that comes up in the interim until we actually get someone permanently.
Okay,
And
so I would be
maybe-
asking, like, for example, Paul, if he would be interested in doing some consulting work outside of the league, but for Birchwood Village.
Due to
Through the
this.
league.
Outside of or through, yeah.
Okay, okay.
All right.
just until we can get
But
And some
I'll
other,
wait to hear
other,
about.
other of these small municipalities may have part-time city attorneys who may consult with us hourly too. It's possible.
I just don't want us making legal decisions and find out that we've now put ourselves in place of a really lovely lawsuit because we didn't know what we were doing.
Well, it's just
Absolutely, and I
kind of-
think that's a risk. That's a
It
true risk, and I
absolutely
think
is.
that needs to be stated until somebody gets in place. I don't have a resource that I can go to with legal.
That's why I would like to reach out to them and ask, because they may have had this happen before and therefore can tell us what we need to do. I also don't think any of the upcoming council members are former attorneys, so no. I don't think Bridget was either, so that's a
I
first
believe
for
she
us.
was.
Bridget was?
I believe she was.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one.
I don't think she was. Yeah, I think she was in
I've heard
finance.
people say she
Finance.
was, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, as being a retired attorney, I had one area I was in, and city governance was not it.
Right, yeah.
We refer to retired attorneys as reformed attorneys.
That's right, exactly. All right, well, we have work to do on this, and it sounds like we will need to work with dispatch. All right, go ahead, Becky. B, technology.
Okay, B is the technology conversion update. You can read there what's going on in November, just real quick. Next week, the 19th, is our day that we're porting.
Yay?
Yeah, so, questions?
No, I'm excited though.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what to expect.
Are they,
Reporting?
have they been good to work with so far?
Yeah, I mean, we're just waiting for this thing to happen, so.
I will say whoever the new provider is, they should make sure it says City of Birchwood Village, so it doesn't say spam.
Right, I did take a note on that, yeah, yep,
Damn,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Becky called me and it said spam on my caller ID.
Oh,
With my new Microsoft
Oh.
Teams calling plan,
Wow.
so, yeah. I said, didn't it say Birchwood Village, but, no, so,
Spam risk.
You
yeah.
answer your spam calls.
He didn't, I started leaving a voicemail.
Oh.
And now the iPhones, they start like dictating the voicemail so you can watch the person talk.
Oh, yes.
And so I was like, oh, it's Becky from Birchwood.
I see, okay.
Okay, so that's with that. Delinquent utility bills, nothing special there. We'll assess those as property taxes after the next meeting. The tree inspection update, waiting for Steve Dean for the estimate to remove the 13 hazardous trees. We did send in the sample of the tree that had suspected oak wilt to the U of M, and we got those results back today, and it does not have oak wilt.
oh, good.
So,
Is it
I
the
just
fungus?
glanced at him, I need to dig into it.
It doesn't have like a worse disease or anything, right?
Nope, nope,
Okay,
I think
So the news is good.
it's a good news, yeah, right, right.
Generally, that fungus that my trees had, it's general, like, within a certain distance of ponds or lakes. It
Okay.
has this thing, so.
Yep, good
Probably
news.
the
And
same.
then, one of the two,
Convolution, huh? Oh. we
and then one of the two residents also that we thought had oak wilt sent a letter from an arborist saying they did not indeed have it. So we're making progress there.
Good.
I will say Steve Dean is struggling a little bit with locating some of the trees and giving me the estimate. I think just kind of waiting.
Okay.
So, but he'll get me that.
Okay.
Recycling grant update, is that next?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so here's your fourth. Here.
Okay.
So again, thanks to Ryan for the help with that, and then I'll get it to you, Justin, before second reading, and then we also have got stickers and recycling bins in the parks, and I think we're all set
Yay,
to finalize this grant after we finish the fourth stuff,
awesome.
and that's it.
Great.
I just realized we have a utility bill going out here in December, which means I need any information you need for the newsletter by November 21st.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, well, thank you, everyone. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Mercifully, I make that motion.
I'll second.
Ryan seconds, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I wonder if anyone's ever voted against the